Part 188. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1874. In the starry sky, a huge shadow quickly approached and appeared. Hey, the star field here is actually much more energetic than the Orion arm. Jia Yan was a little shocked as soon as he left the subspace. The Edisha did not follow him out of the subspace and acted as a backpack, but stayed inside the subspace by itself. Although it is easy for a strong person to see objects at a shallow level, the cute Edisha has been wandering inside the 4 to 5-dimensional subspace, and with a large amount of energy, it can easily make another sudden march. It penetrates into the extremely deep subspace, so it will be difficult for enemies to attack it. This is how Jia Yan protects his car. And he thought of letting the Edisha follow him in subspace because he was a little uneasy about the star field here. If anything unusual happens, he will sneak into the subspace, then use the Edisha backpack to leave quickly. But it was not at this time that Jia Yan had just rushed out of the subspace and felt a burst of energy in the surrounding starry sky. Although the cosmic energy still feels thin, the total amount is a little stronger than that of the Orion arm. This is a place much closer to the center of the Milky Way. It is natural that there are more stars here and more energy. Jia Yan thought of this silently, and then stopped worrying about energy issues. No matter how much energy there is in the universe, even a galaxy-level person like Jia Yan can sense the changes in energy. An ordinary strong person cannot feel such a small change. The surrounding stars seem to have become closer and more numerous. It is indeed close to the center of the Milky Way. Jia Yan looked around and saw the difference here. The distance between the stars seems to be closer, and the movement of some stars here has also accelerated, and the energy explosion of the stars seems to be more. There should be civilization over there. Whether this is the Zerg territory or not, you will know if you go over and ask. Jia Yan felt that there were a lot of signs of civilization activities around a distant star. This star field is called the Zerg territory. This shows that there are some unique species in this star field. Sure enough, when Jia Yan entered the subspace again, he did not use the Edisha, but relied on his own flying ability to fly to that civilized place. He only saw the active creatures inside the civilization. Individuals are actually insect-like creatures. This creature is somewhat like an ant on Earth, but much larger than an ant. Some are centipede-like, others like spiders. Anyway, there are many to name a few. Interesting, is this where the name of the Zerg comes from? Jia Yan knew that the Zerg he heard was an interstellar lingua franca that was different from Earth's. The word Zerg was a little different from the word Zerg understood by people on Earth. But this doesn't mean that he is completely different from the creatures in this star field. At least Jia Yan looked at it, and there were some individuals who looked quite similar to himself. If he said that he was a strong man who came out of this Zerg star field, I guess many people would be willing to believe it. In this star field, there is an industrial star belonging to the Zerg domain. They are just a civilization on the edge of the Zerg domain, mainly transporting products to the Zerg domain. Well, our Zerg territory is developing there every year, but not towards us. Otherwise, our border will become the hinterland, and our status will be high by then. It's a pity, Her Majesty the Queen doesn't want to. It's going this way. SHH, keep your voice down. Are you going to die if you make such arrogant comments about Her Majesty the Queen? Humph, even if the Queen doesn't have any thoughts of doing anything to you because of a little commoner, there must be many of her die-hard loyalists who will kill you. I'm one of them. And the Queen, Your Majesty, you have your reasons for not developing in this direction. There are no stars around our starry sky. To leave, you have to travel 20 light years away. This is not cost-effective. That's why the Queen does not go here. Do you think she is unwilling to develop in other aspects? A few people from the Zerg planet who were doing planting operations on the small civilized planet on the border were working silently. While they were farming, they would also quarrel. It's a pity that there are not many people on this small planet at all. Even if they quarrel or fight, it will probably take a lot of time for the police to come from other planets. Although many powerful people in interstellar civilizations no longer need food, they still need energy after all. As for ordinary creatures, they need a lot of food. Thanks to the power of interstellar civilization, no matter what kind of texture planets are, they can be cultivated and developed. Therefore, many super civilizations will transform their own border stars, or small planets that are slightly suitable for development, into plants that can grow products. Planet. However, what everyone doesn't know is that there is a group of diligent farmers on these planets who are far away from ordinary planet civilization and even forgotten by the people. Not to mention the Zerg, even the Orion arm has a large number of these planets, which have a small population and are all automated. But after all, they still need people to manage them, so a group of people who have been farmers for generations have become like this, the lowest level person on the planet who will never succeed. The farmers on this planet are just such a group of people. They can obtain information from the outside world, but they do not have the ability to step out to the outside planets, or in other words, few people are willing to step out of this quiet land. Buzz. When a terrifying and earth-shattering shadow appeared in this farmland outside the vast vegetable garden, each of the chatting insect-like animals raised their heads in surprise. Then, a scene that may be enough for them to blow for a lifetime, or for generations to come, appears. A creature that was almost holding the sky, or in other words, was already holding the sky, appeared in front of them. This animal is a full 30 kilometers long. What's even more exaggerated is its long and slender feet. If the feet stand up, they can reach into outer space. This shows that this strange and terrifying animal can completely devour all the people on this planet with almost one bite. Ah, what is this? Oh my God, such a huge creature, who is this? An adult from within the star field. Impossible, none of us have ever met this gentleman. If there is such a person in our star field, we will definitely know him. You, what are you going to do? We are in the Zerg star territory here. Even if you are galaxy level, you are absolutely vulnerable in front of our queen. A group of insectoid creatures, each one put down their busy work, and jumped to the outside of the field in great fright. Such a monster, let alone attacking them, if he doesn't hide it or doesn't help the planet stabilize its original orbit, even if it just comes, it may cause turmoil on their planet. So they didn't think about attacking this creature, because it would be absolutely useless. If you are such a big man, even if you are not strong enough, you can crush a lot of strong people just because of its size. Of course, there should be very few people who are big but not strong enough. Such a big person must be at least a star, otherwise it will be difficult to support such a body. In short, they knew that they and others could not take action, otherwise they would die. Hello, I don't mean any harm. When all these farmers were pissed off, the upright creature finally spoke. At the same time, the strong creature who spoke had a sense of surprise in his voice. Because he could see that the group of farmer-like animals in front of him seemed a bit strange. They were all bug-like creatures, but there was no superficial racial disagreement between them. They all recognized the appearance of other bugs, even among them. In perception, many male and female animals on this planet have different appearances, but they are still combined. This shows that the creatures within the Zerg domain have actually achieved complete integration, and race and strength are not big problems. What's even weirder is that within this Zerg territory, there are couples giving birth to children, and there are also some nest-like places scattered across the starry sky. If necessary, they will automatically spew out many insect-like creatures. It's just that the intelligence of these creatures is not high. Occasionally, some individuals can develop into intelligent creatures, and the developed individuals will become ordinary Zerg people. Those without intelligence will become the Zerg star soldiers all over the sky. In addition to consuming a lot of resources, These completely unintelligent individuals are the best soldiers, and each of them obeys orders extremely well. Interesting. Jia Yan smiled silently. Yes, this powerful being who frightened all the farmers was none other than Jia Yan. He felt the consternation of the farmers around him, and after comforting them, he had no more words. After all, he was a strong man, and a strong man who had reached the galaxy level. Naturally, he would not care about what these ordinary people thought. Even if the Zerg Queen knew about his attitude here, she would never think there was anything wrong. Even if he killed all the farmers on the planet, she would never say a word. The strong will receive special treatment. Sir, what do you want to ask? That's it? Where are you here? I want to think of the central area of your Zerg territory. Can you give me a map? When the huge animal said this, a group of farmers were even more shocked. Because the overall appearance of this animal is somewhat like that of their Zerg tribe. It has wings and so many feet. It looks very much like a certain animal in this star field. Unfortunately, it is not that kind of animal. At this moment, they all knew that the visitor in front of them was not from the Zerg tribe, and they were even more frightened, because they were afraid that this was someone who wanted to cause trouble for their Zerg tribe, and such a being wanted to find trouble. The best way to cause trouble is to exterminate all the population of the small star on the edge of the star field. This will make the entire Zerg star field angry. Sir, our place is the southwest corner of the Zerg star field. If you want to go to the central star area of the Zerg star field, walk along the northeast and you will reach the central star field of the Zerg star field. The Queen and others are there. You don't kill us. The map is here, please accept it. A Zerg farmer took out a navigation-like map tool. This tool seemed very small, but it was taken away in one breath by the huge creature that was as big as the sky in front of them. Well, I understand, thank you. I won't kill you, because you and I are friends. Jia Yan smiled slightly and spread his wings to fly. Not even a single plant or tree on this planet was harmed by him. After all, he seemed to have landed, but in fact, his feet did not fall to the ground, but hung in the air for a while. And now that he has left, he has not caused any change in the gravity of the planet. He has left directly, calm and calm. Even the gravity on that planet couldn't have much impact on him. It's so scary. This is at least the strength of a high-level star or above. You damn high-level star, do you know how to do it? This is at least a galaxy-level powerhouse. Seeing, galaxy level? Our Majesty, the Queen, must be at the galaxy level. Although she said she was a territory lord, I don't know what the difference is between a territory lord and an ordinary galaxy level. Ha 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 ha, are you stupid? I listen to you talking about current affairs every day, and I feel that you know a little bit, but it's a pity that you don't understand anything. There is a big difference between the galaxy level and the domain lord level. Although the domain lord the lord is also a level of the galaxy level, but compared with the ordinary galaxy level beings, it definitely has two meanings. A territory lord can defeat 100 ordinary galaxy level beings without getting hurt. And intermediate galaxy creatures do not have much damage ability to the territory lord, but you have to know that the territory lord is also a galaxy intermediate in nature, just more advanced than ordinary galaxy intermediates. Is much better. Oh, I actually know it. I heard it somewhere. I just forgot it. Now I remember it. This strong man should be a junior star of the galaxy, right? Then he must not be able to face our queen. There is a way to win. It seems that our worries are unfounded. For sure, we people from the Zerg territory will definitely be sought after when we go out. After all, we have such a powerful Her Majesty the Queen. Ha 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 ha, that's right, even such a galaxy-level existence doesn't dare to wreak havoc on our farm planet. It seems that our Zerg domain is more powerful than imagined. A group of creatures were bragging behind their backs. These guys are all very good at dancing. Jia Yan flew away from the planet helplessly, but there was nothing wrong with his ears. Even though he was thousands of kilometers away from the agricultural star, he could still clearly hear the conversation behind him. He was helpless, but he was also moved by the self-confidence of the people in this star field. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1875. This is still an ordinary farmer on the small border star. If he were a person from the central star area, he would probably have his nose turned up when he saw Jia Yan, right? Because Jia Yan heard that in this Zerg domain, there are actually many strong people who have come to study, so they have a lot of opportunities to see the galaxy level, and they also know that their own adults should be invincible strong people, so I will be proud. Of course, Jia Yan will have to go there in person to know the specific situation. After learning the location and changing his direction to inform the Zerg realm of his arrival, Jia Yan entered the subspace again. In fact, even if he did not leave subspace and kept flying forward, he could easily find the inner central star area of the Zerg domain. However, that was a bit too much. A galaxy-level powerhouse came to the opponent's star area inexplicably. Internally, if you are stronger than them, you can say that you are weaker than the other party, and yet you are so arrogant, that is to look down on the other party, and there is nothing to say in provoking attacks. Moreover, Jia Yan was originally invited, so he was not an outsider. If he showed his face here, the other party would be mentally prepared. The current time is almost 2 months and 22 days after that battle. Within 7 or 8 days, it should still be possible for me to reach the interior of the Zerg territory. The Zerg territory is huge, with an area of 1,000 light-years. It only takes Jia Yan more than 6,000 light-years to fly here. Therefore, to get to the interior of the Zerg territory, you still need to use the Aditha's breakthrough method, otherwise it will be impossible to catch up with 3 people. Enter within the month. Not long after, Jia Yan jumped up again and entered the subspace. Then, the news of the appearance of this galaxy class was passed to the upper level by the farmers in this starry sky, and from the upper levels, it was passed all the way to the highest level of the Zerg star field. Oh? Are you here? This little guy came very quickly. Inside the Zerg territory, there is a monster that looks like a big insect. But what is somewhat shocking is that the head of this huge bug does not look like a disgusting bug, but an upper body that looks like a human being, but the appearance is slightly different, and it is extremely coquettish. She is the queen of the Zerg, and she is also the absolute king of this vast star field. Even the Zerg queen's scope of influence actually covers the Orion arm. At least if she goes to that star field, all the galaxy-level powerhouses will greet her. No one dares to say anything harsh to the Zerg queen. They consider it to be the Zerg queen's sphere of influence, and if possible, they are willing to give a certain amount of tribute to the Zerg queen to ensure their own safety. Of course, the Zerg queen has no interest in places 6,000 light-years away. The influence is not too big. Even if it is to influence, there is no benefit if it is too far away. Even if it is special products or something, such a long distance, luck it's not even worth coming back. Is Jia Yan here? Her Majesty the Queen, I heard you call him little guy. Could it be that he is younger than you? Beside the Zerg Queen, there is a group of various creatures, some of which have even reached the level of galaxy-level terror. The speaker was a wolf-like monster. This monster is obviously not from the Zerg domain, but he has extremely powerful talents. But even if he is talented, his actual age is still a bit older than the Zerg Queen. But when he met the Zerg Queen, the Queen had already broken through to the territory lord level, and had even become the absolute king in this star field. So he licked his face and came to the Queen of Zerg, saying he wanted to study, but in fact he wanted to surrender. Yes, this Jia Yan's actual age is not even 100 years old. Not even 100 years old. Reaching the galaxy level at 100 years old is considered powerful. As expected, he is indeed a genius that the Queen has mentioned several times. 100-year-old galaxy level, even a newly reached galaxy level, is nothing short of extraordinary. Haha, it must be that Her Majesty the Queen was more powerful than him back then. Her Majesty the Queen achieved the galaxy level in just a few decades, and then she made rapid progress and became a territory lord in an instant. Even if this little guy can't be so fast, he is definitely a good genius. A group of learners, or subordinates, were all full of praise, but in this praise, they also did not forget to praise their immediate superiors. After all, everyone is working for Her Majesty the Queen. Giggle, do you think he just reached the galaxy level? No, he didn't just reach the galaxy level, but he arrived a few years ago. When he reached the galaxy level, he was only 2 or 3 years older than me. What's more, before coming to our Zerg territory, he had already accomplished the feat of killing 1 galaxy intermediate and 9 galaxy juniors alone in a group battle. Don't underestimate him. The Zerg Queen smiled, and then told a fact that was like thunder on the ground. What? How is it possible? A strong man who is less than 100 years old can actually kill a middle-level galactic person, as well as a basic level 9 galaxies? This. Your Majesty, you will not be deceived. Many strong men say they have some great feats, but in fact they just want to cheat me out of food and drink. That's right, Her Majesty the Queen, if this is true, it is only worse than you, and even a little bit behind us. This kind of genius cannot be believed casually. Many people nowadays are liars. Your Majesty, you are too young, so don't trust others. After a group of subordinates or strong men who came to study one by one heard about Jia Yan's feat, just as the Zerg Queen thought, none of them were willing to admit Jia Yan's talent, and even faintly, almost everyone said the wrong thing, saying she was too young. Snort. Boom. When the Zerg Queen snorted coldly, the middle-level galaxy creature who said that the Zerg Queen was too young was suddenly shocked. Then, blood spurted out from his mouth and nose. Well. He was so confused that he almost died. It's okay to say that he is, and it's okay to doubt him, but don't talk about my age. In addition, I saw the battle where he killed a group of mid-level galaxies and a group of primary-level galaxies with my own avatar. Could it be that you can't even blame me? Don't you even believe it with your eyes? Don't dare. Her Majesty the Queen has seen it, which means it must be true. We can't see Taishan. Haha, don't be angry, Queen, we are just vigilant. Everyone in the group of subordinates and students quickly lowered their heads. The creature that spurted out blood slowly retreated to heal its wounds. He knew that he had escaped death, but if he had said a few more words, he would have died just now. Fortunately, the Zerg Queen is not the kind of headstrong person. Well. The Zerg Queen looked at the powerful men below and sighed. Each of these beings, before coming here, was a good genius. It's a pity that when they came to her side of the Zerg Queen, they either came with a cooperative attitude like Jia Yan, and then were completely suppressed by the Zerg Queen's talent and power, and each one of them slowly became stuck in a rut. Gradually regarded themselves as subordinates, even if they may still be separated in the future, at least at this point in time, they did not dare to say anything to refute the Zerg Queen. This made the Zerg Queen feel that she was still alone. She very much hoped that Jia Yan's arrival would be different from others. After all, the Zerg Queen was not optimistic about his talent before, but after actually watching him fight with a group of galaxy-level people, although his performance was extremely poor, she was a little surprised, because she felt that this Jia Yan was a man of building material. Of course, she still hopes that after Jia Yan arrives, he will never become like other geniuses. He bargained for prices before coming and was very courageous. However, after arriving, he was impressed and became when it gets boring, everyone considers themselves a subordinate. If Jia Yan is like this, then she will be a little disappointed, but of course it will not hinder everyone's cooperation. Are you here? I can afford to wait for a few days. The Zerg Queen smiled slightly. In fact, she is also looking forward to meeting Jia Yan in real person, because they have always been either she used a clone, or everyone used a clone, and they never met with their real identities. Jia Yan may not even know that she looks like this, right? Hee hee. The Zerg Queen is still looking forward to Jia Yan's arrival. However, this kind of expectation is only a little bit more than the average genius, and it's not too exaggerated. After all, he has not shown the possibility that he is more worthy of her expectations and waiting than other geniuses. Huh. Inside the subspace, a strange shadow quickly passed through the extremely deep subspace. The shadow's slippage caused a large number of twisted pursuits in the deep subspace behind it. It's just that these pursuits are completely ineffective, because before they reach the pursuer, the opponent has already calculated the speed of escape, and seems to have escaped their pursuit at a critical moment. This is the role of the Edissa. If Jia Yan went to the subspace by himself, it would be impossible for him to reach this speed, let alone escape the twisted pursuit. This would require countless calculations in an instant. Although Jia Yan is considered a strong man, he can also accommodate a large amount of computing power in his brain, but compared to technology, it is really nothing, not an order of magnitude at all. So he doesn't want to use technology to enter subspace. During this period of deep travel in subspace, Jia Yan also mastered a lot of internal information in subspace through the strip. Sure enough, this is how the deep-level definition of subspace should be defined. This would overturn some of my previous ideas. Jia Yan looked at the distortion in the surrounding subspace, and then completely denied one of his previous definitions. For this trip, he used the Edissa, which was a surprise to him. In the past, he had gained nothing from the deep subspace journey, but now he is able to feel at home in the 8-dimensional subspace, so he is different from the past here. At this moment, he can definitely gain a lot in the subspace. In the future, I will also be able to access information deep in subspace. This information is very important to Jia Yan, and it is even crucial to his subspace strength that may soon be improved. With this information, I have completely corrected my previous misunderstandings and my goals. The time for me to reach the 9th dimension will not be too far away. Jia Yan silently wrote down a lot of data. But just as he was enjoying it, a warning sound came from the Edissa. "Master, we are arriving." "Oh, okay, let's go out then." Jia Yan had to give the order to leave with a little regret. The next moment, the Edissa quickly broke away from the ship 10 times. Then, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th. After flying all the way to the 3rd degree, Jia Yan confessed that he had separated from the Edissa, leaving it alone in the subspace, while he quickly flew towards the outside world. Jia Yan's Edissa is not planning to bring it to the world, but is planning to keep it following the interior of the subspace. When there is any crisis, he can instantly enter the subspace and then ride on its load. Equip, quickly sneak into the 10-dimensional space, and then escape or leave. You know, in the 10-degree subspace, according to Jia Yan's idea, even the Domain Lord does not think he can easily attack, so it is another big trump card for Jia Yan. Of course, this is the trump card for escape. The Lord may be helpless. Poof. Jia Yan was flying by himself, still recalling the previous trip to subspace in his mind, because he felt a lot of inspiration. If he didn't gather these inspirations immediately, he might forget them later. This is the great thing about a genius. They can often feel the direction of progress in very small things. This was exactly the case for Jia Yan, but the timing of his realization was a bit wrong. When the big mosquito rushed out of the subspace, he didn't pay much attention to where the outside world was. But this time, it's a bit funny. he actually crashed out onto a planet. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion suddenly rang out. This planet is not an uninhabited planet, but a planet with commerce, even developed commerce. So, when the giant mosquito reacted and hurriedly stopped, preparing to cause minimal damage, his huge feet had already injured a city on the commercial planet. Fortunately, this city seemed to be a city where strong people gathered. Countless strong people inside hurriedly escaped. Even if some of them were affected, they were still only slightly injured, and no one died. But the damage to the city was too great. The foot of a giant mosquito had not eliminated its own gravitational influence, which caused the entire city to be affected by gravity, and the entire world shook. Who is this person? Dare to attack our planet in the Zerg territory. You are so bold, you launched an attack without saying a word. No, it's a galaxy-level existence. Hurry up and report it. There are galaxy-level beings that have directly attacked our Zerg's core star area. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1876. If we change to another star field and are suddenly attacked by a galaxy class, maybe the entire planet under attack will be completely chaotic. But in the Zerg star territory, because they know too much about strong people, they are relatively calm about the attack of a galaxy level. It should even be said that most people on this planet know a lot about the galaxy level. Some powerful people, such as the stellar level, are still organizing the evacuation of people. People on the entire planet became extremely frightened because of Jia Yan's attack, but they were also in good order. This is the scary thing about a powerful star field. Even if there is a galaxy-level attack, they will not panic. If they change to another star field, they may be frightened by the star field and surrender directly. Messy. Your Excellency, who are you and why did you come to attack our Zerg planet? Although this planet looks luxurious, after all, the Zerg domain is not filled with galactic-level creatures, so the strongest person is a high-level star creature. After he learned about Jia Yan's arrival, he immediately flew into the sky. Seeing that the giant mosquito's feet crushed a bunch of houses in one breath without causing any damage, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. And he also understood that the opponent was not purely attacking with all his strength, because such a huge creature would never cause such a little damage if it wanted to attack. Even at the moment of his attack, all living creatures other than stellar and semi-star level creatures will die. This is the terrifying thing about the galaxy level, so this strong man understood the situation of both parties in an instant, and became slightly less afraid. As expected. When he asked this question in a shocking voice, the strong man over there had just been freed from the subspace, and then showed a little bitter smile. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to attack your planet. I was just invited by your Zerg queen to visit your Zerg territory. Jia Yan was indeed a little embarrassed. As soon as he arrived in someone else's star field, he actually destroyed the other party's planet. This was no different from a slap in the face. After all, if a super strong person said that he would accidentally hurt a planet, no one would believe it unless the strong person was a fool. However, Jia Yan cannot be a fool, and the Queen of the Zerg cannot invite a fool to the Zerg territory. So it's hard for Jia Yan to explain. Could it be that he was realizing while flying? Jia Yan himself didn't believe it when he said this. It's a pity that this is really the case. He doesn't know how to speak. Huh? Your Excellency, are you also feeling something? Unexpectedly, Jia Yan didn't say so much, and the other party actually guessed what Jia Yan was doing. Jia Yan was shocked. I dare you to be more powerful than me, a person who can read the minds of strong people? Seeing that Jia Yan was a little shocked, the other party quickly said the next words himself. Ha ha ha, Your Excellency, You don't need to filter too much. I guessed this myself. And things like yours are actually normal for Our Majesty the Queen. As a top genius, she has been so reckless since she was a child. What we have lost has always been to destroy this and that, but as we become stronger and stronger, there are fewer such things, but there are still quite a lot, so we are all used to it. Puff. Jia Yan almost spat out in one breath. I bet they are used to it. Is it because the Zerg Queen is also such a person? It's right to think about it. Her Majesty the Queen is a genius even more than Jia Yan. If she doesn't have any similar special moves, it's impossible for her to be a genius. No wonder she is so powerful. She is probably thinking about powerful things while eating and drinking, and she can realize them every time. Otherwise, how could she become a domain lord level existence so quickly? Jia Yan was silent. Sure enough, being a genius or a strong person is not achieved simply. But in this way, everyone's grudges are not fully explained. After all, Jia Yan is still an outsider. Yes, I'm sorry. I was really thinking about something. I'm sorry. I stopped at the last stage. Otherwise, I might have caused more harm to you. If there is anything I need to take responsibility for, I won't shirk it. In addition, please tell your queen that Jia Yan is here. Okay. The star's high-level powerhouse exhaled instantly. He was also afraid that this star-level being was coming to attack their planet. Although the Zerg territory was not afraid of the galaxy-level beings from the outside world, or even the domain lord-level beings, this did not mean that they were coming to attack a separate planet. By then, they were no longer afraid. Because there are no strong people on the planet, the galaxy level is still the galaxy level after all. If you want to kill the creatures on a planet, it is still extremely easy. So it would be a good thing for them not to have a war. Not long after, the high-level star creature instantly contacted the upper level and the upper level through the contact information. Bring him to see me. Within the communication, the voice of the Zerg Queen, whom Jia Yan had heard before but was a bit unfamiliar with, came. Yes. This high-level stellar creature nodded respectfully. Next, the other party's vigilance completely disappeared. Her Majesty the Queen, everyone knows this person named Jia Yan, then the matter is completely certain, it is just an accident. If Her Majesty the Queen does not know this person, then things will be difficult to handle. If a war starts, his planet will be destroyed in an instant. Being killed, even him. Please follow me. The high-level star creature did not take any vehicle and flew directly into the sky. Jia Yan followed him without doubting his presence. All the creatures on the planet also knew the progress of the matter at this time. It was just a galaxy-level being who had an unexpected incident. What also surprised Jia Yan was that the creatures on the planet seemed to be used to such events. They all smiled bitterly in helplessness, but no one cursed or anything. It can be seen that Her Majesty the Queen does such things often. Jia Yan almost wanted to laugh. To the Zerg Queen, she used to be a somewhat mysterious, extremely powerful and unsmiling being, but now she saw that this being was not as scary as she imagined. Jia Yan followed this high-level stellar creature and flew into space. Oh, this starry sky, is actually... Jia Yan saw the outside world and looked shocked. Because in the outer starry sky, the planets are actually arranged neatly and closely together, as if they are less than 300,000 kilometers apart. No wonder that on the planet just now, when you look at the outside world, it looks like there is a moon, but it is actually all planets. There are 16 planets arranged together, 4 or 4 arranged in space, like neat eggs. This is definitely not something that occurs naturally. Master Jia Yan, Our Majesty the Queen personally brought this planet from outer space because she felt that the arrangement of planets in this starry sky was not very beautiful, so she brought other planets here, but the developed planets here, apart from the one I control, there are only 3 others, and the others are either resource stars or uninhabited planets. The high-level stellar creature introduced Jia Yan with a smile. Jia Yan sighed. As expected of a top-level domain lord, he is actually able to do such a thing, which opened my eyes. That's right, Jia Yan's eyes were opened. The strength of territory lord level beings is still a bit unclear to Jia Yan. He only knows that territory lords are very strong. They are said to be at the intermediate level of the galaxy, but compared to the intermediate level of the galaxy, they are stronger than countless beings. But Jia Yan was a little confused as to how strong the territory lord was. But now, as soon as he saw the starry sky, he suddenly had a clear understanding of the power of the territory lord. As a primary star being, he has killed an intermediate star powerhouse, but if Jia Yan is asked to move a planet as huge as the Earth, it may be possible within a short distance. After all, the planet is just placed in space. If you really have the strength to move, it won't be too strenuous. It is easy to move a little bit, but it is very difficult to transport it from other distant places. What's more, we also need to consider the role of gravity, problems with the center of the Earth, etc., which may require power to calm and suppress. Otherwise, it may cause the energy ball to be transported, causing civil strife on the planet, and possibly an explosion. This requires a strong person to be extremely powerful and terrifying, which Jia Yan will never be able to achieve. Now, I understand how terrifying a territory lord is. I was still thinking about whether I could wait until I reached the middle level of galaxy and kill another territory lord. Now it's really ridiculous to think about it. Jia Yan has always been a person who has the ability to kill enemies beyond levels. He had been dreaming before that when he reached the middle level of the galaxy, he could kill a territory lord level being. To put it bluntly, the territory lord's level in the Milky Way still belonged to the intermediate galaxy level, so he thought that he should not disaster. But after actually seeing such a scene, Jia Yan let go of his thoughts. It is difficult for a territory lord level being to transcend the level, which is not to say that it is impossible, because the Queen of the Zerg seems to have done such a thing when she was at the middle level of the star. But thinking about it in practice, Jia Yan thinks that she may not necessarily can be done. After all, among the creatures that have reached the middle level of the galaxy, there is not a single one with poor talent, and there are even many whose talents exceed those of evolved beasts. The reason why Jia Yan is able to achieve the ability to kill enemies all the way beyond the galaxy level is because in addition to being an evolved beast, he also has the existence of Yin and Yang Dao, and the subspace talent is also a huge help. In short, with so many only with unique help can he kill a mid-level galaxy creature. But when it comes to the territory lord level, there are few territory lords who are worse than him. What's more, the territory lord has a trump card, let alone a trump card. Jia Yan feels that even if he reaches the middle level of the galaxy, the territory lord will still be able to do it easily. You can kill yourself without using a killer weapon. So the next journey is still difficult. My lord, I don't know where you come from. The high-level star creature was introducing their star field to Jia Yan while still trying to find out the details of Jia Yan. After all, the arrival of a galaxy-level person is also of great interest in stellar-level creatures. It's not that they want any information, because the people Her Majesty the Queen will invite, they also know that they are absolutely safe, not to mention that they are only at the galaxy level. For the Zerg Queen who can kill the Domain Lord, it is almost easy to pinch death, they have no safety concerns, just a little curious. I came from the Orion Arm, which is 6,000 light-years away. No, it's 7,000 light-years away now. Jia Yan responded calmly. Oh, that's the limit of influence of our Zerg territory, so we can be considered good friends. This high-level stellar being nodded quickly. In fact, saying that it is the edge of the Zerg domain's influence is a bit overestimating the Zerg domain. Many people in the star field over there have never heard of the Zerg domain, just because the Zerg domain is powerful enough, and many strong people know about the Zerg domain. They also know that there is a terrifying existence in the Zerg domain that they cannot stop, which is the Zerg Queen, so they are just willing to sell face. Of course, Jia Yan would not show no face to the Zerg territory in this matter. Yes, it is the scope of influence of your Zerg territory. I have long heard that Her Majesty the Queen of your territory is very powerful. I have discussed it with her clone for a while, so she invited me and I stopped by to take a look. It was actually invited by Her Majesty the Queen herself. The high-level stellar creature suddenly looked at Jia Yan again. You know, many Galaxy-class people come to this Zerg territory just for a friendly visit, and many of them can't even see the Zerg Queen. Not to mention that the Zerg Queen personally invites people. This is a treatment that only an absolute master can get. The creature invited by the Queen of Zerg must first of all be an expert, such as a territory lord level being, and if it is a territory lord level being that is not weak in strength, after all, the current Queen of Zerg's strength lies within the territory lord. Ordinary domain master creatures do not dare to come to the Zerg domain because they are afraid of being killed by the Zerg Queen. The second creature personally invited by the Queen is a genius. The Queen has never hidden the idea of traveling to the center of the galaxy. This is said to be a place closer to the center of the Milky Way, but it is only 7,000 light-years closer than the Orion Arm. Beyond that, there is still a distance of more than 20,000 to 30,000 light-years to the center of the Milky Way. And she wants a genius because she wants a helper who can reach the domain lord level in the future and go to the center of the galaxy with her. As for why we don't look for other well-known domain lord creatures, one is because other domain lords may not want to go to the center of the galaxy, and the other is that each of those domain lords has its own history of progress and has not been affected by the Zerg Queen. Being cannot be trusted. Find some geniuses yourself, even if they are already at the galaxy level, as long as you receive the Queen's guidance, at least it is the Queen's favor. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1877. That would at least be a little more loyal. Many of the geniuses who have actually received her guidance are stunned by the Queen's amazing talent, and every one of them is willing to be by her side to get a little more teaching, so it is not a bad idea. It's a pity that no one has been promoted to the domain lord level despite the guidance of the Zerg Queen. Of course, she herself is not very old, and her guidance started after she was promoted to territory lord, killed so many territory lords, and became famous, so this time is not long. If it is such a short time, if anyone is promoted to territory lord, then the talent of that genius may be comparable to that of the Queen, but unfortunately it is not. Jia Yan followed the high-level star creature and flew to the outside. The Queen will definitely not live on an ordinary planet. After all, the other party is too strong. It would be a bit embarrassing to live with the ordinary creatures on those 16 planets. Besides, a strong person will scare a group of people to death if he makes any random movement. People. So the place where they live is hundreds of millions of kilometers away from this starry sky. This flight lasted for 2 days. Only then did Jia Yan and the high-level star creature arrive at a place where meteorites existed. And nearby where this meteorite exists is a huge gas planet that is so big that it is a bit surprising. The diameter of this planet is about 20 times that of Jupiter, but it miraculously did not form into a star. Therefore, such a huge planet has become a place for superpowers to settle down. Huh? A lot of powerful aura, here is. Lord Jia Yan, this is the area where Her Majesty the Queen is. Please go inside. The late stellar powerhouse who led Jia Yan to this place seemed to have lost all respect for Jia Yan after arriving at this place. Of course, it was not done deliberately, it was just because I was no longer afraid of danger and it became a natural attitude. In fact, it is still very respectful. Okay. Jia Yan knew that the other party had so many powerful people here. Just the terrifying aura that Jia Yan could feel, that is, there were more than a dozen of them above the galaxy level, and they did not even include the aura of the Zerg Queen. This should be because the other party was stronger than herself, so she hid it. Jia Yan's heart became slightly solemn. Because when he got here, he knew that the other party's power and influence were far greater than he imagined. There may be more of these galaxy-level beings than he sensed. After all, not every strong person is willing to release their strength, and this planet is as big as a star, so it is difficult for Jia Yan to search for such a large area. Of course, the biggest reason is that Jia Yan cannot release his brainwave power to search at will, because this is disrespectful to the strong. Everyone is at the galaxy level, and many are even stronger than Jia Yan. Then Jia Yan's deliberate search would be disrespectful to others, or even looked down upon. A fight is likely to break out. So Jia Yan didn't take the initiative to search, so Jia Yan couldn't figure out how many powerful people there were on the planet. The surface of this huge planet is actually a gas planet, but it is very strange that there are countless large and small planets or solid star matter floating on this planet. These materials are the residents of the strong. The size of some substances is even as large as the 15 major planets in the outside world, and the beings living on them are also extremely terrifying. Over there is the palace where the queen lives. Generally speaking, she will meet with all the geniuses and subordinates here. That high-level creature from the star was a little unstable when flying outside this planet, because the gravity here is too terrible, and the ejection of gas planets would also hurt him. So he is a little slower than in the outside world. Of course Jia Yan is not afraid of this. If he had this idea, Jia Yan would have several ways to eliminate such a large planet. However, this kind of destruction will not be simply destroyed with a single strike, but will require the use of various solutions, such as destroying the core in the center of the star, using subspace talents, or using the balance of certain forces. In short, there are many ways, but none of them can destroy it with one blow as easily as everyone imagined. That is something that can only be accomplished by a domain lord level existence. Even domain lords should not be able to do it. After all, living things are living things. It is still impossible to achieve such a level of destruction. Senior Tianji and the others destroyed a large area of stars and built a star field, but they only destroyed small celestial bodies, such as stars, and still could not move them. This shows that, strong people are still just living creatures, and it is still difficult to achieve the level of a god, maybe a galaxy level. Jia Yan followed the other party and gradually approached the huge planet. Before getting close to the planet, Jia Yan saw a huge and terrifying palace from a distance. The size of this palace is beyond what humans can imagine. A palace is as big as a planet. It should even be said that it is made of a planet the size of the moon. The huge gravitational force was directly balanced by the power in the palace. Such strength was no longer possible for ordinary creatures, not even Jia Yan could achieve it. It must be the Zerg Queen. She might have used permanent power here to make the palace here, even without her presence, at least impossible to destroy for a long time. What a big palace! Jia Yan was a little shocked. Such is the power of Her Majesty the Queen. The high-level star existence smiled with a touch of pride. Although he is only a high-level star existence, for him, the galaxy level is seen every day, and the person who brings all this is the strongest queen of their Zerg tribe, whose strength is as terrifying as the sky, so other galaxy levels will coming like a pilgrimage. Yes. Her Majesty the Queen's strength is beyond our imagination. Jia Yan followed his words and lightly flattered the Queen. As soon as Jia Yan said these words, a terrifying and earth-shaking sound of brainwave power suddenly came from inside the huge palace. Jia Yan, I didn't expect the real you to be a bit sweet-talking. The other party's voice was very similar to the Zerg Queen's clone, but its strength was earth-shattering, countless times more terrifying than the Zerg Queen's clone that Jia Yan had felt before. Well. Jia Yan's whole body was shocked, and then he quickly activated his brainwave power, pushing the influence of this power directly out of the surroundings of his body. Your Majesty the Queen, I am not just saying nice things. Your strength really opened my eyes. Jia Yan was neither humble nor arrogant, but he did not deny whether he was talking sweetly. In short, everyone likes to hear good things. If he says it, the other person will at least not have a bad feeling towards him. Jia Yan soon flew into the huge palace together with the high-level stellar creature. This palace is extremely terrifying, with a height of hundreds of kilometers. Jia Yan feels a little small standing outside the palace. You must know that he is already a terrifying monster with a size of dozens of kilometers. Ever since he grew to several hundred meters, he has rarely felt like this, but now, he actually experienced this feeling again. Of course, he was not surprised. The Zerg Queen once used a clone to show the miracle of creating life in front of him. Naturally, he would not think that the other party did not have such strength to build a palace. Along the way, Jia Yan saw the interior of the palace, which looked like rooms. Some of them even contained powerful galaxy-level beings. They looked at Jia Yan coldly one by one. No one showed any favorability, and of course no one showed any malice. They just regarded the coming galaxy-level being as a passerby. Because each of these creatures is either a subordinate of the Zerg Queen or a genius who has also come here, they have become accustomed to the newcomers. To put it bluntly, the galaxy-level beings here come and go, and they are no longer so surprised. But Jia Yan was surprised. There are at least more than 20 galaxy-level ones, and these are in this palace. If we add those from the outside world, the number of galaxies. Jia Yan was really shocked. Last time, a group of galaxy-class people gathered around to attack him. He thought it was a unique and powerful scene. But now, he has actually seen so many galaxy-level people in one breath, all like ordinary people on the roadside that he can see casually. Such things are like a dream to him. No wonder the Zerg Queen didn't think much of him differently. There were so many galaxy-level people in her palace, and there might even be more in the outside world. No wonder they were pointing fingers at her. Jia Yan's expression was a little stern, and he immediately knew that he might not be able to pass the test of the other party's true form later. Sure enough, when Jia Yan entered the palace and saw a Zerg Queen who was half human, suppressed by her terrifying aura, he knew that his test was coming. To put it bluntly, the clones of many strong men are slightly different from their real bodies. Although the concepts and many other basic ideas are the same, there is also the possibility of errors. So for the true form of the Zerg Queen, maybe her view of Jia Yan is not like a clone. Other people's clones are different from Jia Yan's clone. Other people's clones have their own ideas, while Jia Yan's real body wants to control everything. This may lead to the real body having no energy at all during the battle. To control the clone, this is also the reason why Jia Yan was restricted in several battles. Jia Yan, should I say it's been a long time no see, or is it the first time we've met? The terrifying mental power of the Zerg Queen, which is what Jia Yan called the brainwave power, suppressed Jia Yan in an instant and made Jia Yan's entire giant mosquito skeleton feel a little loud. Huh? Her Majesty the Queen, didn't you invite me to come here to cooperate? You actually gave me power as soon as you came. Could this be your plan? Jia Yan shook his body and resisted the force, then asked with an uncertain expression. He knew that he couldn't have stage fright, because this meeting was likely to be the cornerstone of his future status. How dare you speak to Teacher Queen like this? When Jia Yan said the above words in an equal tone to the Zerg Queen who was lying quietly on the ground, not far from the Queen, a monster that looked like a big black sheep roared instantly. This person's strength is also astonishing. He is probably at the peak of the intermediate galaxy, and he is probably only a thin line away from the territory lord. Therefore, the brainwave power he released also brought huge pressure to Jia Yan in an instant. But Jia Yan is still unafraid, because he knows that he has already agreed on all the conditions and his status with the Zerg Queen. This so-called disciple does not dare to do anything to him now. The Zerg Queen shouldn't be the kind of person who doesn't keep her word. It's just that Jia Yan is also a little shocked. A person at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, who is the strongest person he has seen so far besides the Zerg Queen, actually claims that the Zerg Queen is a teacher. It seems that the strength of the Zerg Queen is more terrifying and exaggerated than he imagined. Even a creature at the top of the middle level of the galaxy, not far from the Domain Lord, declares her as a teacher. Forget it, Jia Yan was called here by my avatar, and their agreement is indeed equal. Jia Yan, I will consider you to be equal to me. Haha, you have seen my conditions here, what do you think? You are equal to me, do you have this strength and talent? The Zerg Queen released her mental power, and in an instant, Jia Yan also felt that the black sheep's brainwave power also dispersed. I'm sure they all agreed. Jia Yan didn't take it seriously and looked around directly. According to what the Zerg Queen said, he knew what she meant after checking the surrounding environment. Among so many galactic levels, even most galactic levels that are stronger than him, how can he, Jia Yan, dare to be said to be on an equal footing with the Queen of the Zerg? Haven't you seen that a creature at the top of the middle level of the galaxy declares the Queen of the Zerg as his teacher? This means that the existence of this middle level peak of the galaxy regards the Zerg Queen as his master. In the future, the Zerg Queen will be like a teacher, and he can do whatever he is told. To put it bluntly, he is just a subordinate, but the relationship is relatively small. It's close, and it also has the right to refuse the Queen. I can see clearly, there are many strong people here, maybe many geniuses. Jia Yan shook his head. He knew what the Zerg Queen meant, but he would not retreat. But, Her Majesty the Queen, I have told your avatar that I am not an ordinary genius, nor do I consider myself a genius. The cooperation I want to have with you is what you said yourself. I believe that Her Majesty the Queen will not do anything to you. His words go back on his word, even if it's a clone's. Jia Yan spoke calmly. He did not have any too passionate words or any thoughts that were too bowed. Instead, he said these words as if it had nothing to do with him and let Her Majesty the Queen think for herself. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1878. Haha, Jia Yan, you are quite good at shirking responsibility. Are you saying it's my problem? You're very brave. Unfortunately, when I see your strength, I feel a little unimpressed by it. So, I'm not impressed by these disciples. Find someone to compete with you among your subordinates. If you win, then I will make you a collaborator on an equal footing with me. By the way, there are not many such collaborators, but there are still some, so you have to work hard. The Zerg Queen smiled, then pointed to a creature standing on the main hall of the hall. You do it? Yes. The creature pointed out by the Zerg Queen was a snake-like monster. But his strength has reached the primary level of galaxy. Jia Yan glanced slightly. He felt that this monster's strength was at the peak of the primary level of galaxy. It was not much different from Jia Yan's current strength. Although Jia Yan was only at the high level of primary level of galaxy, there was a slight difference, but he knew that, this is just a disciple or subordinate of the Queen. If he can't even defeat such a being by one level, then it is nonsense to say that he is on an equal footing with the Queen. The two parties walked out of the palace where the Zerg Queen was. The Zerg Queen did not refuse to go out, but followed him out of the palace with great interest. Jia Yan can clearly see that the Zerg Queen's strength is indeed unfathomable, but she also has some problems, that is, she is very, very young. Of course, she is more than twice as old as Jia Yan, but for her in terms of the identity of a domain lord, or even the status of an extremely powerful person among the territory lords, it is not that big. It should even be said that she is a very, very young female creature. Such a young creature has reached the domain lord level. Although she looks very stable, Her words are easy to see clearly. She is not old and she is a bit playful. In fact, Jia Yan is the same. He often expresses some thoughts that only young people have or says some things that only young people would say in his heart. Therefore, Jia Yan still strongly agrees with this Zerg queen who has followed her all the way to see if Jia Yan is the creature she has chosen. At least talking and doing things with such a creature will be more energetic and have something in common. Discourse. Jia Yan, are you ignoring me? Jia Yan looked here and there along the way, but did not look at his opponent, which made him angry. No, you are a genius, and you must have been taught by Her Majesty the Queen. How dare I, Jia Yan, ignore you? Jia Yan quickly threw the blame away. You must know that this is absolutely wrong. In the future, both parties may meet under the same influence. If the relationship is not good, it will be really troublesome. Humph, don't think that you are looking down on me because my brainwave power is one level lower than yours. My strength is definitely beyond what you can imagine, especially since I recently received guidance from Her Majesty the Queen in the Zerg territory. I have made rapid progress in battle. If you underestimate me, you will definitely lose later. The other party was as cold as ice and didn't buy Jia Yan's answer. Jia Yan smiled without saying too much. In fact, he does look down on the other party. You must know that he has already killed a mid-level galaxy being, and now there is a galaxy-level being who is lower than himself. He wants to fight with him, so what about Jia Yan? Can you raise any alarm? Of course, there is still a bit of emphasis on it. If the creatures taught by the Zerg Queen really have no strength at all, he will be greatly disappointed. The two flew back into the universe. The high-level star creature that had just sent Jia Yan followed him out of the palace, and at the same time sighed, galaxy-level beings are galaxy-level beings, and they said they would fight all at once. Jia Yan, an outsider, looked really good. He was a guest of Her Majesty the Queen, but he didn't even stay in the palace when he came to fight. The efficiency of this fight is too fast. He felt a little emotional, as if he recognized the gap between himself and the galaxy-level existence. Of course, this high-level galaxy creature has already reached this level, and with the Queen's help, there is still a chance to be promoted to the galaxy level in the future, so he is also looking to see if there is anything from the battle between the two galaxy levels. What can be learned? Your Majesty, let us begin. The two galactic-level powerhouses both said respectfully to the Zerg Queen who followed her out. The Zerg Queen nodded. Jia Yan turned his head and looked at the other party calmly. Jia Yan, look at my moves. The opponent was a big snake-like creature, which swept through his body quickly and flew in front of Jia Yan. It's very fast, but that's about it. Jia Yan paused slightly, but he didn't care about anything anymore. If the other party is at this level, not even comparable to an ordinary primary mid-level creature from the galaxy, how can it catch the eyes of the Zerg Queen? Sure enough, when the opponent's body arrived in front of Jia Yan, he suddenly moved and his attack speed suddenly became much faster. That's interesting. Jia Yan was slightly startled, then smiled. His giant mosquito body stepped back. Although the opponent's attack speed is extremely fast, who is Jia Yan? His evasion speed was extremely fast. During his arrival in the Zerg domain, he also mastered a lot of key information deep in the subspace. Through this information, his understanding of the subspace became more and more profound. As a result, he evaded, bringing with him a trace of subspace influence, and his speed was extremely fast. If it were Jia Yan who had been in the war before, he would probably have to find a way to fight head-on with this incoming elementary creature from the galaxy, but now, Jia Yan quickly dodged the opponent's attack. Awesome, you can avoid this. The other party also suddenly understood that Jia Yan had some capital for being arrogant and thinking about cooperating with the Zerg Queen on an equal footing. But he didn't feel that this was the reason why he couldn't defeat Jia Yan. It was just fast, and he didn't even show any real fighting power. Suddenly, he once again used his snake head to bite Jia Yan. "Send it up directly with your mouth. Aren't you afraid that my head will explode?" Jia Yan laughed. "If you can, just blow it up and see." The other party was furious and a little depressed. After all, his race is like a snake, which only attacks with its head and teeth. If the enemy really thought that his head would be so easy to explode, he would have died countless times. In fact, for a race with such great flaws, their defense at their weak points is absolutely astonishing. Even the head of the snake monster actually has a certain possibility of being comparable to Jia Yan's azure defense. So he felt that it was absolutely impossible for Jia Yan to break his head. But Jia Yan didn't think he couldn't give it a try. He stretched out one of his front legs and pointed the toe at the head of this elementary creature from the galaxy. Moreover, the speed of Jia Yan's attack was also extremely fast. In an instant, it stabbed his forehead, and then stabbed him in the forehead in one breath. So fast. The other party was also surprised by Jia Yan's attack. He also thought that Jia Yan just ran away quickly, but he didn't expect that the speed of the attack was also so fast that everyone was shocked. Jia Yan's attacks are of course fast, and they are not the fastest. The person he is 3 months later is different from the person he was 3 months ago. Don't think that Jia Yan will not make any progress during the 3-month voyage. Beings like him can always make progress no matter what time they are. Oh! The Zerg Queen felt a little surprised. The black sheep-shaped monster beside her shook his head unhappily. In fact, as strong men, they can all see that Jia Yan's strength has not been fully utilized now, so the snake monster they sent will definitely be defeated. This alien, elementary creature from the galaxy actually has some strength. Puff. Jia Yan's foot stabbed the opponent's head accurately. The basilisk's open mouth also bit the surface of Jia Yan's other foot. This foot pushed him away, preventing its sharp tusks from getting in even an inch. As for the foot that Jia Yan stabbed, it penetrated the opponent's head, and then in his shock, it penetrated into the skull in one breath. The top of this foot suddenly turned a deep blue color. Poof! An instant later, the skeleton actually burst into a ball of blood. Yes, it's blood. Jia Yan's blue defensive feet actually stabbed open the opponent's head. The hardness of this head can be said to be the strongest defense Jia Yan thinks he has ever seen. Even he feels a little unable to penetrate it. Even if it penetrates, the foot still stops in front of the opponent's head, making it impossible to advance even an inch. You know, his attacks are also extremely terrifying. Of course, even if he couldn't make an inch in, his foot had already penetrated the vital part of the opponent's head. Next, he only needed to use this foot to connect with his body organs and explode his brainwave power. If it is turned on, then the other party will definitely be blasted by his brainwave power in one breath, causing brain damage or even death. The other party looked shocked. He thought his head was strong enough, but he didn't expect that this seemingly slender foot could actually pierce his skull. This made him a little unacceptable. As for this situation, it seems that the Zerg Queen, who is far away, has already expected it. Okay, you all stop. The Zerg Queen was not that surprised that Jia Yan won, and faintly exuded a brainwave power. Jia Yan only felt that his body was unable to move for a moment, and then he was separated from the other party forcefully. What is this power? Jia Yan was shocked. You must know that his strength is about to reach the mid-level star level. Even if he fights with an average mid-level star level, he thinks that his chances of losing will be smaller. But under the power of the Zerg Queen, he was unable to resist at all. Doesn't this mean that at this distance, if the Zerg Queen wants to kill him, she will definitely kill him in an instant? Jia Yan was a little scared. Fortunately, the other party didn't want to kill him from the beginning. Otherwise, coming here would definitely be the worst decision in his life. Of course, the Zerg Queen has reached that level, and there seems to be no reason to kill Jia Yan. She even thinks that her talent is much better than Jia Yan. There is no jealousy or anything. Killing Jia Yan may be what is the purpose of being a future helper? What's more, there are many galaxy-level creatures in the Zerg Queen's palace and on this huge planet. Jia Yan can't believe it. So many galaxy-level creatures are all her subordinates, so there must be many geniuses like Jia Yan. Yes, since she wanted to recruit geniuses like Luo, how could he just kill one of them casually? Therefore, Jia Yan was quite calm and followed this force and allowed the opponent to separate himself from the opponent in the battle. Jia Yan. The snake-like monster on the opposite side was still staring at Jia Yan. He naturally knew that it was habitual for the queen to take action, because here, if two galaxy-class people fight with each other, it may even cause death or injury. Then only the Zerg Queen takes action, and other creatures do not have perfect effects. After all, in addition to the Zerg Queen, there are also mid-level and high-level creatures in the galaxy just like the Black Sheep monster. Although it is only one level worse than the Zerg Queen, its actual combat power is 100,000 worse. 8,000 miles away, even if he takes action, he may not be able to suppress Jia Yan and the snake monster. So only the Zerg Queen took action. Jia Yan, you win this game. The Zerg Queen calmly announced the results of the competition between the two sides. Jia Yan was very satisfying to her, but she just defeated a genius galaxy-level being who was weaker than Jia Yan, so she wouldn't be surprised, and it didn't make her feel that he should be on an equal footing with Jia Yan. Land. Okay, Jia Yan, how do you feel about your body? If you feel like you need to make up for your strength, then I will let you wait. Next, I will arrange for another genius who has reached the middle level of the galaxy to fight with you. Of course, this is just a genius who has just reached the middle level of the galaxy. His strength may not be as strong as the middle level creature of the galaxy that you fought with that day, but you should not underestimate it. Geniuses are different from ordinary creatures. There is still a difference between them, and his danger must be greater than that of the mid-level galaxy creature that you fought with that day. The Zerg Queen announced her plan without even asking Jia Yan whether he would agree. This is of course, even if Jia Yan doesn't accept it, it won't work, because he has already defeated a genius here who was taught by the Queen herself. Now unless Jia Yan admits that he no longer pursues an equal status with the Queen, otherwise the other party will always the pursuit allows Jia Yan to verify his strength. After all, if you want to cooperate with a domain lord level being, even if you want to assume a slightly lower status cooperative relationship, it will definitely not be that simple. Jia Yan needs to prove himself. Okay, I don't need to rest. Jia Yan was not surprised to hear that there was another opponent. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1879. After all, Jia Yan also knows the rules. If a star-level creature wants to cooperate with him on an equal footing, he will definitely have to send members of his Jia Yan team to fight with the opponent. Otherwise, the strength cannot be measured. Of course, after this battle, Jia Yan finally understood the strength of the creatures in front of him. At this moment, it seemed that everything was over quickly, but in fact the other party still caused some damage to Jia Yan. It's just that it may not be as powerful as others think. Jia Yan's strength is terrifying compared to those of the same level or one level lower than himself. But against this creature that was a little lower than him, he was still almost severely injured. This showed that the opponent's strength should not be underestimated. Of course, there is a reason for all this, because Jia Yan wants to end this battle quickly. After all, to deal with a creature with lower strength than himself, he has to use more than 2 attacks, so don't talk about it. The Zerg Queen has cooperated. Let's treat her as a subordinate or a person with a lower status here. If Jia Yan wants to compete, then he must show his strength and confidence. Dog King, come on. The Zerg Queen said this directly to a certain place in the palace. What appeared was a giant dog-like creature. This creature came to the outside world and glanced at Jia Yan, as if he was extremely dissatisfied with him disturbing his practice. After all, practicing in the palace of the Zerg Queen, because they have the brainwave power of top domain lord level creatures to collect energy, they all have great benefits. They are naturally extremely happy. Every strong person who comes here can't wait to practice. Jia Yan also felt it just now. The energy here is much stronger than the outside world. Of course, practicing here is extremely fast. Otherwise, if there is a battle between strong men here, there will be many strong men watching casually. They should at least use their brainwave power to observe. But in fact, no one pays much attention and only uses a certain amount of energy. Observe, because many strong people are practicing. Therefore, Jia Long also understood the other party's anger. Your Majesty, if I take action, his death will have nothing to do with me. I have been practicing some kind of secret skill recently and cannot control my power. The other party was quite direct and said something that might kill Jia Yan. Jia Yan, he said this, are you afraid? The Zerg Queen smiled slightly. Your Majesty the Dog King, right? Since I am here, I will naturally not be afraid of challenges from some strong men. You and I have the same brainwave power level. If I lose to you and die, it will be counted as mine. I don't have the ability, so you don't need to take on any responsibility. Jia Yan looked at the other party and answered directly. The strength of this Dog King is similar to him, both are creatures in the late elementary and late stages of the galaxy. Not to the top, but not far from the top. Jia Yan, on the other hand, has just reached the preliminary peak and is still a little short of the top. Speaking of which, the opponent is slightly higher than Jia Yan in terms of pure level, but this is nothing to a strong person. After all, if you fight with Jia Yan, you have to find someone who is completely comparable to Jia Yan. Even though they were of equal strength, it was a no-brainer. The difference between the two sides was so small that it was almost ignored. Okay, since you are willing to fight him, let's start. But before we start, I can tell you clearly that this Dog King has been studying here for 10 years, and his strength has received a lot of guidance from me, so maybe it will far surpass the average strong man of the same level. If you can beat him, it means that your talent and future are promising. I will agree to the cooperation plan that the clone told you. The Zerg Queen gave Jia Yan instructions. In fact, the plan that her avatar told Jia Yan was originally her own. However, it was naturally impossible to reveal everything to Jia Yan easily at this time, and she had to complete the test. The Queen of the Zerg didn't lose her status that much. Did she really agree to Jia Yan's cooperation plan on an equal footing? It's simply impossible. Only if Jia Yan can pass the most basic test can he barely start. Okay. Jia Yan nodded. The Dog King doesn't need anything more to say from the Zerg Queen. It seems that he has already dealt with some existences like Jia Yan. Your Excellency Jia Yan, right? I advise you that if you feel that you can't fight me, please declare your defeat directly, otherwise you will probably be killed or injured. I have said these ugly words in front of you. The Dog King is about the size of a giant dog that is more than 40 kilometers long, and its colors are colorful, and it is not a Zerg. His whole body was filled with terrifying aura. You don't need the guidance of Senior Dog King. As a galaxy-level person, I naturally know the rules of a strong man's battle. If I really can't stand it, I will admit defeat. Jia Yan couldn't stand his thrust at all and nodded. The Dog King's expression became slightly more solemn because of his attitude. He said so much, but he actually had a certain intention to make Jia Yan angry before the war, or to disturb his mind. But Jia Yan actually didn't take advantage of him at all, which shows that Jia Yan is either in a better mental state or has more confidence in himself. He believes that Jia Yan should be the second point, because he already knew the information about Jia Yan before. He is just a galaxy class who is younger than the Queen. He is not even 100 years old this year, and is almost the same as the Queen back then. Well, how could such a creature have a better mental state? So he should be confident. But if he is confident, the Dog King believes that he should not worry too much. This strong man at such a young age must be confident in himself. After all, he is a genius, and he considers himself inferior. But he was confident that he had the strength to defeat him, the Dog King, and the Dog King just smiled. In the past, he was also confident, and even thought that he would easily be able to fight beyond the level. But once he got here, he restrained his thoughts. Because there are really too many geniuses here. The Queen of the Zerg has always been kind and charitable. After defeating many territory lords, she publicly stated that she would teach the galaxy levels from the outside world carefully. The Dog King and a group of galaxy-level people came here to exchange and learn. What also surprised him was that there were too many talented people here. There are several people who are similar to him, and there are even 1 or 2 people who are stronger than him at the same level. As for the Zerg Queen herself, she is even more of a genius. He has never seen such a young territory lord, not to mention that this territory lord can easily kill other territory lords. Therefore, the Dog King believes that Jia Yan, an outsider who is young and thinks he is talented and does not take him seriously, will definitely be beaten to the ground by him later, and he must realize the fact that there are people outside the world and there is a sky outside. Since Your Excellency Jia Yan is confident in himself, let's take action. The Dog King smiled, and then he moved directly. In his imagination, now is the best time for Jia Yan to realize the reality. He can't even fight Jia Yan a few more times, otherwise the other party will definitely not realize the reality. He simply launched an attack directly. Although it was not his trump card, it was still extremely powerful. Puff! In the starry sky, scenes like water splashes erupted. This is... Jia Yan was slightly startled. Jia Yan knew before that there are many types of strong people in the universe. In the Orion Arm and the star field where Jia Yan had previously fought, many strong men were relatively marginalized beings. Although they had similar understandings, they were not systematic after all. Just like Jia Yan, he knew his own faults. The spatial talent is good, but he has not developed a more rigorous system and training methods. But when we get to this place far away from the center of the Milky Way, it's completely different. The cultivation of the physical body is of course a direction for more powerful creatures to cultivate, but it is divided into many factions, such as those who use weapons, and those who do not use weapons. There are even detailed divisions between the factions. There are also recognized advantages and disadvantages of each. As for brainwave power, which is the mental power mentioned here, it has become an orthodox cultivation method. It goes hand in hand with physical cultivation, and the number of creatures that practice it is no less than that of the physical cultivation system. The Dog King in front of him is the spiritual power of cultivation, that is, the power of brain waves. The moves he used made it seem like an ocean suddenly appeared in the starry sky. Is this the true way to practice brainwave power? Is it also the most reasonable way to practice with the strongest combat effectiveness? It is indeed much more sophisticated than our outside practice. Jia Yan was slightly startled. In the Orion Arm and the Edge star fields he has been to, many strong people practice brainwave power. At most, they can only release it in the field, and then cause certain hallucinations. After all, it is mental power and can affect a certain outside world. It's easy to cause hallucinations and the like. But when he arrived in this star field, the Dog King was able to make the starry sky become his own domain. Jia Yan was a little surprised by the sophisticated power of this kind of control. But surprise comes as a surprise. Without such advancement, Jia Yan would not be willing to come. So he didn't feel too surprised and just stepped back. There was a splash of water in front of me, and a dog's head suddenly appeared from it. The dog's head opened wide and its mouth was full of blood, and it bit in the direction of Jia Yan. This head is big enough to be the king of dogs. His move can be said to be confusing, and there is a certain degree of reality. At least the dog's head hidden in the water will catch many creatures off guard. Jia Yan was not among them. He stepped back, just outside the starry sky where the Dog King bit him. Very good. The Dog King didn't think that Jia Yan would be bitten by him in one bite. After all, he was able to defeat the previous basilisk in one blow. If he was bitten so easily, the Dog King would be disappointed. At this moment, it just fits his thoughts. The Dog King is also a strong person. He has been improving for a while and wants to have his strength firmly verified by fighting another strong person with similar strength. Therefore, he also hopes that Jia Yan can become stronger and compete with him. It would be best. Bang! Jia Yan's foot stabbed along the opponent's dog head. The Dog King opened his mouth and bit the foot. Click! Zanlin's defense was slightly frozen by his bite, and there was a sound. The Dog King wanted to use more force and bite off the foot, but on the other side, other feet stabbed hard. He quickly gave up and continued to exert force. The dog's head flicked, and the huge dog's body retreated violently. Jia Yan stabbed him, but he slapped him away with his claws. The first round between the two sides was so violent that the subspace exploded. The air felt like it was full of energy. After all, both sides were extremely powerful, so the possibility of destroying the subspace was still very high. But at this time, they were just the aftermath of the battle. No one wanted to deliberately cause problems in the subspace, but they still caused problems in the surrounding first-level space. These two guys fought well. As a territory lord, and a top territory lord, the Queen of the Zerg naturally saw their battle clearly. She could see in an instant that both sides had some reservations after this attack, and they were evenly matched. She was very pleased. Not only was she gratified that the Dog King had become a completely different person under her own guidance, she was even more gratified that Jia Yan, who had not been taught by her, was actually able to come here. He fought evenly with the Dog King. She was relieved, but Jia Yan himself was a little depressed. He even felt a hint of self-denial. Because even though he held back his hand this time before, he could feel that the other party also held back his hand. What's going on? A creature with a similar strength to me actually tied with me. I previously thought that there should be no opponents at the same level, but now there is a creature with a similar strength to me, we were tied. Jia Yan was extremely depressed. Before coming to the Zerg domain, he had imagined that after his strength improved a little, he would make the Zerg Queen look at him differently. It is said that there are many geniuses in the Zerg domain, but Jia Yanzhen has never thought about any so-called genius who is close to his own strength. But now, the Dog King's strength was as if cold water was poured down on him, making him a little irritable. This strength cannot be suppressed. Jia Yan also felt that there were beings with similar strength inside the palace, or in the starry sky far away from the palace, who were even more difficult to deal with than the Dog King. In other words, at the same level, the Dog King would not even be the strongest person here. Jia Yan was tied with him, which means that he probably couldn't beat the others. Even if he could win with all his methods, it would only be a win against someone of the same level. He, Jia Yan, has been fighting across levels all the way. When will he actually be reduced to barely beating the same level? Jia Yan even had a little self-doubt. No, the creatures here are all those that the Zerg Queen has been looking for. They may even be extremely talented galaxy-level people from the nearest star field. What's more, the Queen has said before that they are all geniuses. Galaxy-level people, when an existence reaches the galaxy level, No one is less talented, not to mention that they are still the most talented people found in these galaxy levels. Now I have just arrived here, and I have fought to a tie with the existence of the same level. If I am defeated by this, how about a period of time for the main existence of the realm to teach? Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1880. Jia Yan gradually regained some confidence. And during the fight, Jia Yan judged from the opponent's sense of life that the Dog King was probably much older than the Zerg Queen. In other words, even though he was also known as a genius, he was not young at all. And the few powerful beings around him don't seem to be smaller than Jia Yan. There are a few beings similar to Jia Yan's brainwave strength, who look quite young, but their combat effectiveness is not the same on the surface perception, but it is completely impossible to compare with Jia Yan. Therefore, Jia Yan still has a good chance. Don't belittle yourself. Bang! Jia Yan hit the Dog King's body with one blow. Why did I think so much just now? Spiritual power? It's scary. Suddenly, Jia Yan was startled. He came to his senses. In a normal battle, he would never think about so many things. But in this battle, he actually thought so much that his fighting power was not fully utilized. Let me go. As soon as Jia Yan's brainwave power was activated, there was no feeling of splashing water from the other party, but instead a vast ocean. He can't be like this Dog King. Once the brainwave power is released, it will cause hallucinations and the like, but it is definitely a form of power. As for strength, I have already said that in the system of strong men in the universe, strong is strong. No matter whether you encounter moves you have never encountered before, you are strong enough. No matter how exquisite these moves are, they cannot defeat you. Just like now, in the battle between Jia Yan and the Dog King, the other party has been fighting and entangled with Jia Yan with extremely exquisite mental power, but Jia Yan did not see this mental power for the first time. And there was an instant failure. This shows that even though it was the first time for Jia Yan to see such a galaxy-level being who was proficient in spiritual power, he was not too disturbed by this sudden fighting method. Of course, there is still interference. At least now Jia Yan is almost disturbed by this mental power, and has a lot of negative emotions. Puff. Jia Yan released his brainwave power, and the mental power that had interfered with him was instantly cleared. Humph. With the most basic mental strength, you are indeed an indigenous person from an indigenous area, and you still want to defeat us. It is simply a fantasy. The Dog King smiled lightly. Jia Yan didn't know why. Originally, he wasn't someone who got angry easily, and he didn't think he was an aboriginal. But after hearing these words, he felt an impulse of passion, and almost became a life-threatening attack. Stand up. Boom. The opponent withstood Jia Yan's foot attack, and then his whole body flew backwards. This guy has indeed been tricked. He doesn't have much to do against our mental power. But what exactly is this strength? If I don't make him angry, I'm laying a trap for myself. The Dog King was also a little surprised at Jia Yan's strength after being furious. After all, he knew that Jia Yan was not mentally strong, but now, he was a little shocked to see Jia Yan being angered by him in one breath, and then bursting out with strength. If it is really possible for Jia Yan to arouse this rage to a level that exceeds the strength of the Dog King, then he is shooting himself in the foot and is definitely setting himself in a cocoon. Unfortunately, the Dog King was really wrong. Compared with him, Jia Yan's strength is naturally not overwhelming, but it is indeed slightly stronger than him. But after such a provocation, Jia Yan had no experience fighting against mentally strong men, so he burst out with terrifying power, which put the Dog King at a disadvantage instantly. After beating, the Dog King suffered some injuries on his body. Jia Yan also suddenly came to his senses. Asshole, he actually affected my mind again. I almost wanted to use my killer move just now. Jia Yan's expression was a little ugly. If he hadn't come to his senses just now, he would have used his trump card. Then others would see his true identity, and it would be impossible to kill the Dog King. Because the Zerg Queen is by his side, no matter how arrogant Jia Yan is, he will not feel that his current trump card cannot be stopped even by the existence of the Zerg Queen, a top powerhouse among the domain masters. Bang! Jia Yan followed the opponent's attack again and suddenly stepped back. He began to use the mutated heart of the terrifying giant mosquito to quickly create blood, and then felt a little tired all over his body. Just now, he burst out with strength and hit the Dog King many times. Although the opponent withstood them all, he also suffered some injuries. Jia Yan himself also showed a certain amount of fatigue. If he keeps fighting at the current attack speed, sooner or later the opponent will be able to catch Jia Yan's fatigue point and make a comeback in one go. Fortunately, Jia Yan reacted and left the battle circle before that happened. I actually reacted, this. The Dog King almost gritted his teeth. He could tell just now that Jia Yan was almost out of strength, and he had also planned the attack time. But what he never expected was that Jia Yan actually avoided the attack time in one breath and left the battle circle. Don't try to escape. This high-level galaxy creature, with an extremely ugly expression, chased after Jia Yan. He wanted to catch up with Jia Yan while Jia Yan might still be tired, and then defeat him. Although he missed the timing of the counter-attack just now, Jia Yan's fatigue was real. He thought that Jia Yan was definitely not as strong as him now that he was pursuing. The person who attacks will definitely release more power. Unless this foreign native has terrible physical strength, it will be his turn to beat the opponent now. Who? This galaxy-level genius from the outer star realm has no idea who Jia Yan is. He didn't even inquire about what the evolved beast was before the war, so this time, he miscalculated. The physique and resilience of the evolved beasts, even at the galaxy level, are no longer so incredible, but in a truly evenly matched protracted battle, the effects are shown. Clang! The opponent's dog claws and the giant mosquito's feet collided in one breath. Originally, the opponent thought that they could break through Jia Yan's feet in one go, and then attack Jia Yan's head, wounding or suppressing him in one go. But he suddenly realized that the strength of the opponent's feet was actually extremely huge, on par with his own. You still have strength? He was completely shocked. He couldn't help but be shocked. Just now, he used his mental power to induce Jia Yan to almost lose his mind. He exploded with strength randomly. He should have no physical strength now, but after testing, the other party actually had it. This made him a little uneasy. Sure enough, after this foot withstood the opponent's attack, Jia Yan's other feet caught his startling point in an instant, and burst out with strength in one breath, and suddenly rushed towards the place where the Dog King was. Attack! The two sides are entangled and both have stagnated, so now is the best time to counterattack. Besides, mosquitoes have 6 pairs of legs, and the Dog King is a 4-legged creature. It can't defeat 6 pairs of mosquitoes with 4 legs, so the timing of launching at this moment is excellent. Puff puff. The Dog King was a little depressed, and he backed away desperately. But the 6 legs were like spears, attacking his body one after another, causing the dog hair on his body to fall into the starry sky. There were more injuries, although they were not serious, but they made this genius Dog King creature feel a little embarrassed. He even faintly heard a few familiar laughters ringing deep in the starry sky. This was the laughter emitted by the talented galaxy-level creatures studying here like him in this palace. 2 of them have always been competing with him, and their strength is on par with him. If he loses in front of them this time, the Dog King will definitely be unable to hold his head high for some time in the future. Asshole, die! The Dog King was furious, and in an instant, he also triggered a violent behavior pattern. He opened his mouth and bit down on one of Jia Yan's feet, biting until the blue material was broken into pieces. but the foot that Jia Yan bitten was his front foot. The blue material on this front foot was the most blue material in his body and was also the sharpest. As a result, his mouth was injured as much as the biting of his feet, and blood flowed out. The battle between the two sides was almost in darkness. In the end, this war ended in a very satisfying way. Pi. The sharp blade of the foot slashed the Dog King's neck, almost slicing the opponent's aorta. I lost. The Dog King was making a loud noise, feeling extremely helpless. In this battle, he really used all his strength. From the end of the fight, he felt like he was dealing with a life-or-death enemy. Unfortunately, he still lost. Even if he didn't use his trump card, he also understood that the other party also didn't use his trump card. Jia Yan, you won and you did a great job. I can even see that you are hiding your strength. Haha, very good. I will fulfill my promise. Next, your status with me is as my collaborator. I am completely different from them. The Zerg Queen didn't know what kind of expression she had. She seemed a little cold and a little happy. Thank you, Your Majesty the Queen. Jia Yan quickly turned around and thanked the Zerg Queen. He knew that his strength was still far behind the opponent's, so this thank you was sincere. What? Is he still hiding his strength, this? The Dog King suddenly felt a little unbelievable when he heard the Zerg Queen's words. He had never noticed just now that Jia Yan had been retaining his strength and strength. If the Zerg Queen hadn't said it, he would have thought that Jia Yan's fight with him was so difficult, which was a true manifestation of his strength. But now that he heard it, he knew that the Zerg Queen would not lie, so this person he thought was a native actually had other fighting methods that he had not used, and he suddenly became a little frustrated. My friend the Dog King, I didn't hide my strength on purpose. At least under the normal starry sky, my fighting ability is just like this. It's not that I hide my strength because I look down on you, but I feel that other fighting methods should not be used. If I fight you, you will know why in the future. Jia Yan smiled and explained to him. In fact, that's right. Jia Yan's other fighting method is, to put it bluntly, the fighting method of subspace. This is also his main method of fighting enemies after becoming a star-level powerhouse. If he uses the subspace talent, let alone the Dog King, Jia Yan feels that as long as he escapes to the 8-dimensional subspace, even the Zerg Queen will be a little bit in trouble. Of course, the premise is that the Zerg Queen is willing to wait until he escapes into the 8-dimensional subspace. Before the death, just watching like that, if he took a little action, Jia Yan would probably die. In short, Jia Yan did not use his most powerful fighting method, and this battle was not considered his full strength. I understand, haha, I underestimated the heroes in the world, right? Your Excellency Jia Yan, some of the words I said in the battle just now were not my words from the bottom of my heart, they were just tactics in the battle. I hope you can understand. It's okay, I know. Jia Yan and the dog seemed to have become friends very quickly. Of course, it is impossible to be true friends, but everyone knows that there will definitely be contact for a period of time in the future, so building a good relationship is a must. Even on the Zerg Queen's side, there are only a few strong people with similar strength to them, so if they don't have a good relationship, the future will be uncomfortable. And the Dog King himself is a little bit juju. That was Jia Yan, who seemed to be extremely talented. This was despite the fact that the Zerg Queen had not taught him anything about his fighting ability. In the future, if he is taught by the Zerg Queen, this seemingly young alien visitor may make rapid progress. This is why the Zerg Queen will give him a certain status, even a cooperative relationship, not even a teacher-student relationship. In this way, the Zerg Queen has given Jia Yan great respect, and even Jia Yan has a high status. For example, the Zerg Queen wants him to participate in a certain battle, but Jia Yan has the right to refuse because they are not superiors and subordinates. The Dog King sees how much the Zerg Queen values him, so if we build a good relationship now, there may be places where we need to rely on Jia Yan in the future. Maybe this guy will be like the black sheep. After receiving the teachings of the Zerg Queen, his strength may increase by leaps and bounds. In that case, I'll bet on the right thing. The Dog King looked at Jia Yan, and then smiled. He made a decision to continue to have a good relationship with Jia Yan. A line of creatures returns again. In the palace, many new faces appeared. They are either the creatures who were cultivating deep inside the palace just now, or they are strong men who came here from other floating stars on this planet. Each of them saw the fighting process just now. Especially Jia Yan's battle with the Dog King made many strong men respect Jia Yan in awe. This is a strong man whose fighting ability is almost in rough shape. But such a strong man actually defeated the Dog King who had been training with the Queen for a long time. All the strong men knew what this meant. This Lord Jia Yan is definitely a creature that wants to take off. If there is really a chance, he might even reach the level of that black sheep. No matter how bad he is, he can still be a second-level powerhouse. So building a good relationship will be useful in the future. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1881. The strength of the Zerg Queen is indeed unfathomable. Even though Jia Yan was confident, he was still a little shocked when he really felt the strength of a domain lord. The gap between the two sides is huge. Having confidence in his future does not mean that he can brag now, nor does it mean that Jia Yan is better than others. Just like the geniuses who cultivated near this palace, each of them has confidence in themselves, otherwise they would not be here. Jia Yan, I know that your talent is very strong and you are very confident in yourself, but do you know? Every galaxy-level person here has confidence in themselves, even if they are a little behind now. But they all believe in their own future, so in my opinion, you just have a little more background than the average galaxy-level genius. Compared with them, I don't think you are necessarily much better. The Zerg Queen flew into the palace, turned her head and said this to Jia Yan. Her head and figure are similar to those of human women on Earth, and she is very friendly. However, the meaning of the words he spoke was a bit cold. I know. Jia Yan nodded. In fact, after seeing such a strong man, he knew what he meant. Each of these strong men present has a certain degree of confidence in their own strength and talent. Jia Yan, you have to know that I let you get the status of being equal to me just because my clone promised you that even if the clone of a strong person like us can control it very well, in reality, even if the distance is far, there will still be a certain deviation, so I will know about the decision she made a little later, so I can't change what she said. Do you know what I mean? Jia Yan nodded again. When he arrived at the palace just now, Jia Yan had already noticed that there was a certain difference between the Zerg Queen and her clone. It's like Jia Yan's clone. In fact, a certain part of his personality is a little different from his. This is caused by the clone's communication and communication with the real body. Jia Yan's avatar is a little different from other people's avatars. He uses his extremely powerful brainwave power to communicate through subspace and quantum entanglement. This is relatively real-time, unlike other strong people. It's not that this method can't be used, it's just that this method requires a lot of energy from the real body, and it's not easy to use at a distance. Jia Yan was also thinking about whether he should give up his current method of controlling the clones and switch to a semi-control method like the Zerg Queen. Of course, this requires more powerful technology and specific methods of controlling clones to be possible. Anyway, when the Zerg Queen said so much, she was actually telling Jia Yan that his current cooperative status as an equal with her was only because of the clone's consent. Otherwise, it would be difficult for Jia Yan to win her over with what he has shown now. Dharma eyes. But Jia Yan also understands that the Zerg Queen knows more, such as the strength he has not shown here, the combat ability in subspace, etc. The Zerg Queen knows these things and will also understand his combat power when he starts to use those fighting methods. Later, it will be further improved. But the Zerg Queen knows it, but others don't. Her original intention of saying this is probably not only to put a certain amount of pressure on Jia Yan, but also to make the other genius galaxy-level beings around who heard these words feel a certain degree of satisfaction. If you come out and have a higher status than them, they will definitely be dissatisfied. Such a strong man is powerful. He is so skilled in controlling people. Jia Yan looked at the Zerg Queen again and couldn't help but admire her. In fact, he is different from the Zerg Queen. Even though he has complete control of the Orion arm, on a more level, he is still a hands-off shopkeeper. Therefore, the Zerg Queen's thoughts are a good example for Jia Yan to learn from, but he probably won't learn this method of controlling people. With this kind of mentality, my cultivation is still so fast. I estimate that it will be difficult for me to reach the level like her in 100 years. But not only has she achieved it, she also has such a way of treating people. Ability, no wonder he is a genius who is claimed to be able to go to the central region of the galaxy. Jia Yan nodded silently, feeling that he had come to the right place this time. In his opinion, he really needs to see if this place is suitable for him. After all, others want to test him, and he also needs to test the environment here, right? Jia Yan is not just a cabbage on the roadside, nor is he a person who has no place to go. It is appropriate for others to test him, but he should not be tested here? He didn't put himself in such a low position. Now, generally speaking, he doesn't feel that he is valued too much, but he doesn't underestimate him either. Everyone is somewhat motivated to compare. Overall, it is a good choice. After all, he is already the strongest person in the Orion arm, and there is no existence in the nearby star field that can compare with him, so for Jia Yan, it is important to open up another place where he can take a step forward. Is absolutely necessary. That's the case, then I'll stay here for a while and see what happens next. Jia Yan silently agreed with this Zerg territory. Jia Yan, you can go down and take a rest now. I'll come back to you tomorrow to tell you what you need to do here and what I will give you. Okay. Arriving at the main hall of the palace, the Zerg Queen asked Jia Yan to leave. Jia Yan nodded and left. He also knew that in addition to himself, the Zerg Queen also wanted to explain to others the origin of this powerful man from the distant star field, as well as her views and positioning of Jia Yan's future, etc. Originally, there were certain preparations for these things, but today I just saw the person in person and saw Jia Yan's talent and strength, which made it easier to carry out the following work. Although it is not too new for the Zerg domain to cooperate with a galaxy class, and the galaxy class here comes and goes, there is not much sensation. But the galaxy level is still the galaxy level after all, and the strength and influence of a galaxy level is far from being comparable to that of a star level. So they also need certain courtesy. On this day, Jia Yan was arranged to a planet area outside the palace. This planet area is where newcomers live. In fact, there are quite a few talented galaxy-level adults who are not willing to go to the palace at all, so there are quite a lot of strong people living here. A stellar leader carefully led Jia Yan to this planet. This place is tens of thousands of miles away from the palace. Although to the strong, tens of thousands of miles is like the distance between neighbors on Earth, but after all, with a certain distance, there is a certain degree of privacy. Jia Yan looked at the environment and sensed it again. There are a total of 60 or 70 planets in this land of planets. It seems that the Queen of the Zerg has a big ambition. She actually wants so many galaxy-level beings to study with her. It's a pity that her idea is good, but there are only about a dozen beings living on the planet now. General Jia Yan reviewed the powerful people he had seen before and roughly calculated that there should be around 20 or 30 galaxy-level impressions here. You must know that this is still the number of strong men recruited by a large domain. If the Zerg Queen is not charming enough, or her reputation is empty, a large number of galaxy-level people will definitely leave. In addition, Jia Yan knew that there was a certain galaxy-level existence. Because something happened in his own star field, or he had a certain bottleneck period in learning here, he left. With such existence, the whole Orion arm study together, there are definitely more than 40 or 50 galactic levels. You must know that the galaxy class is definitely not a big cabbage. The number of 40 or 50 probably really includes a large number of powerful people in the surrounding star field. Maybe even some of the galaxy class next door to the Orion arm have been here. Of course, the Zerg Queen said that if Jia Yan wanted to be on an equal footing with her, he needed to perform to a certain extent, otherwise he wouldn't be able to come. In fact, this time there was a bit of a misunderstanding. In fact, after Jia Yan's observation, he came to this starry sky. As long as they are at the galaxy level, they can come here to study. I guess the Zerg Queen wants to have a good relationship. This is a bit like the ancient Chinese saying that if you get an eminent monk to preach, you will just form a good relationship. Of course, others want to dominate one side and unite all the powerful forces together, which is also her idea. I'll just choose that planet. Jia Yan pointed to a planet that was almost 1,000 kilometers in diameter. This planet is about the same size as the Moon. Among this planet, it is not too big, but it is still relatively good. And importantly, Jia Yan discovered that the energy on this planet is good. Although the energy in the universe does not have a great impact on a strong person, most of it still depends on the outside world. But on this planet, the energy of cultivation it has increased by at least several thousand times. For such a planet with good energy, the increase is quite considerable. So Jia Yan picked such a good planet. It was a pity that the leader of the star-level existence suddenly became a little ugly when he saw that Jia Yan had chosen that planet. Because he knows that there is something wrong with this planet. That's right. Why is there no one on an apparently good planet? There must be something wrong with it. Your Excellency Jia Yan, I'm sorry, this planet was previously occupied by a senior who has reached the middle level of the galaxy. Although he has not been to our region for 2 years, he just went out to look for opportunities. Maybe one day he is back, so he wants us to keep this planet. Look, the two around us are not bad, and the energy difference is not big. This star-level existence quickly recommended 2 other planets. Jia Yan followed his gaze and saw that the 2 planets were indeed pretty good. One of them was lush and green, as if there was life. It must be quite pleasant to go up there. If possible, it's still a little bit off, but not by much. So he shook his head. No, I will choose this one. Didn't that Your Excellency leave? I don't know if he will come back. Wouldn't it be a waste for you to leave it vacant? You must know that I am not making trouble unreasonably, but this planet there was no one up there. You see, the other ones were pretty good too, but there were people up there, so I didn't make any plans. Do you think I'm right? Jia Yan's words made the stellar being unable to do anything. Then, sir, you have to be more patient. If that lord comes back and causes trouble for us, you have to say that it was you who insisted. That's for sure. If there is any trouble, I will take it. And don't think that I can't take it. If you are a mid-level star, it won't be that troublesome. I believe it. Jia Yan smiled slightly. In fact, he had already eliminated one of the intermediate galaxy levels before, but the intermediate galaxy level here got such a good planet, so he probably won't be a small role, but after all, this person is not here now. He believed that as long as he gave himself a certain amount of time, he would not be too afraid of another intermediate galaxy existence after he had fully digested what he had gained here in a short time, no matter whether he had advanced to the intermediate galaxy level or not. This is Jia Yan's confidence. Well, you can live there. The stellar existence nodded helplessly. Having said that, He actually knew that he had to bear a lot of responsibility for letting Jia Yan live there, but he was also taking a gamble. After he said this, it meant that he was optimistic about Jia Yan, and it also gave him a little idea of surrender. If Jia Yan is willing to take care of him, then in the future he will be with a galaxy-level being, and even defeat this place as soon as he comes. The favor of two galactic-level beings. This was also a big gamble for him, so he took a certain risk. Haha, thank you. If you need my help in the future, just let me know. Of course, Jia Yan is not a fool. He has helped so much, so naturally he has to make a certain promise. Thank you, sir. The stellar powerhouse went to Shiyuan and left quickly. After all, he was just the one who brought Jia Yan to distribute the planet. Jia Yan himself flew down from his own planet. Of course, it cannot be said that it is completely his own, it is just a temporary residence. Yes, the previous owner of this planet took good care of the environment, and even did some tricks. Jia Yan looked at many places on the planet that had been transformed by the power of brainwaves, and the mountains and ground had changed. It's quite beautiful, like a moon palace on the moon that only exists in myths and legends. Very good. The energy is quite good. I won't move his personal belongings to avoid having to talk about him again. Jia Yan avoided so many man-made places and went directly to deserted places. Finding a random place, the big mosquito was not so entangled, and crawled directly to the ground, quietly realizing the energy. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1882. Jia Yan has gained something today, not to mention that he is a little tired after traveling for a long time, so he needs to cultivate himself now. Okay, now, a new life is about to begin. Jia Yan sank onto the planet, and then the entire planet suddenly became silent. As for Jia Yan's arrival, it was quite new to him, but he also knew that many strong men in the entire Zerg domain did not think so. What is this Jia Yan's name? What is its origin? I know that he is in existence from the Orion Arm. I wonder where the Orion Arm is? Haha, you can look for it on the map, but it is true that it is very remote. It is said that he killed a galaxy before he came here. The existence of the middle level is quite powerful. Oh? Can you actually kill a galaxy intermediate? Not bad, not bad. I think it's a good thing for someone like him to come here. For us, those few have been in high positions for too long, so why don't we come here? As external pressure changes, we don't have the strength to pursue it. He is quite powerful. He defeated 2 people as soon as he came. Now let's wait and see the good show. Regarding Jia Yan, not only many ordinary people in this huge star field knew about his arrival, but more importantly, the powerful people near the palace also knew that he was coming to compete with them for resources. The arrival of the strong. I don't know why this Zerg domain actually gives us resources and guidance. What do you want to do? Didn't the Queen of the Zerg say that she wants to enter the center of the galaxy, but she wants some helpers, so she trains us? Well, isn't she already a territory lord, and she is one of the more powerful territory lords, so why does she need any helpers? Can't she go to the center of the Milky Way by herself? How can she not even be able to survive in the center of the galaxy with her strength? What do you know? You are ignorant. Let me tell you, the center of the Milky Way is really not that simple. Especially for the strong ones, do you think that the center of the Milky Way or the top of the domain lords will dominate? Haha, it is really not the case. It is said that the Milky Way is high. There are all levels of existence. Ah! Are there high-level beings in the stars and galaxies? Even the existence of domain lords is out of reach for us ordinary galaxy-level beings. What is the strength of the high-level beings in the galaxy? I dare not imagine. I can't imagine it, right? If you want to really go and see it, then perform well. I think that if you don't perform well, it doesn't matter if you don't go. After all, the center of the Milky Way will definitely not be easy to mess with, otherwise even the Queen doesn't dare to go. I guess we're of average strength and we're looking for death if we go. That's exactly what my brother said. Anyway, I just want to learn knowledge here. If the resources are big, I will give some to the Zerg territory in the future. They won't lose anything. You think well. What Jia Yan didn't know was that many powerful people had gathered in one place around the planet he occupied. They began to talk secretly about what they had seen today. The most talked about thing is what the Zerg domain is thinking about. Then they talked about the origin of the talented man who arrived today, and whether they could make friends again. Everyone is confident about galaxy-level beings, and they don't want to make friends with a being who is very talented but has a bad attitude. If you can't afford to offend them, they still have the capital to hide. In the Zerg domain, even the Zerg Queen is not an absolute superior. Although many of us are nominally friends with the Zerg Queen as students or subordinates, but in fact, many of them have negotiated with the Zerg Queen. If they want to leave, the Zerg Queen cannot stop them. Strong people have their own limits. Although the Zerg Queen can blow them to death in one breath, she usually abides by her words. So when it comes to Jia Yan, this guest who has a nominal equal friendship with the Queen. Although these galaxy-level beings have no words of admiration on their lips, they are still very curious about him in their hearts. I also think it's awesome. However, after Jia Yan caused some noise, there was silence for several days. Because of his previous 2 battles, he gained a lot of insights. In addition, traveling from the depths of subspace along the way, his subspace talents have also slightly improved, so Jia Yan needs more time to retreat and digest what he has gained. This scene not only shocked the galaxy-level beings who were neighbors of Jia Yan. Even the Zerg Queen in the distant palace had heard a little bit about it. Your Majesty, Jia Yan seems to be a strong man with good talent. He has only fought 2 battles and will have some insights. He is worth cultivating. The black sheep creature was practicing beside the Zerg Queen and said with a smile to the Zerg Queen. The Zerg Queen didn't have much expression. She glanced at the giant black sheep creature, and said with a slightly cold expression, "Black sheep, I know what you are thinking about, but this Jia Yan, I feel that he still has he has potential, so if you want to take action against him, it will take some time, at least until he grows into the middle level of galaxy. Then even if you do it yourself, I won't say anything. For now, just wait for a while. Don't dare." Black Sheep grunted, but did not dare to say anything more. His plan was simple: just because Jia Yan had some potential, he felt a slight threat, and wanted to completely eradicate him before then. Of course, this eradication does not necessarily require killing him. He does not even need to be injured. He only needs to be defeated once or twice, and then his momentum will naturally disappear. It's a pity that Her Majesty the Queen has spoken in person, so it will be difficult for him to continue. This guy's retreat is quite fast. I want to make some inquiries with him in the past few days to understand his strength and the direction of his cultivation, so that I can train him in the next step. The Zerg Queen was also helpless. This Jia Yan actually started to retreat after arriving. She wanted to teach such a good young talent, but she had no time at all. It seemed that this guy was busier than herself. Similar. The matter about Jia Yan quickly became big news in the Zerg domain. After all, the arrival of a galaxy-level person is also big news for the people of the Zerg domain, and it is broadcast every day in the media. Of course, there are already so many galactic-class people in the Zerg territory. Every time one comes, there will be rumors in the media, and then the strength of each of them and their good neighborly and friendly attitude towards the Zerg territory will be widely publicized. In this way the people are also very tired. Although it sounds like the strong men this time are a little different from the previous ones, they seem to have the same tone every time. At the beginning, the people thought it was really a show, but later they discovered that these talented strong men, she was strong, but compared to her own Zerg queen, there was still an insurmountable gap. Suddenly, many people in the Zerg territory did not have such an intuitive impression of their own Zerg queen, but when they saw these geniuses, everyone who came to the Zerg territory was regarded by them as a Zerg queen who could surpass their own. But after losing hope one by one, each of them knew how terrifying their own Zerg queen was. This is also a good thing. Many ordinary people in the Zerg domain can't recognize how strong their own domain is, but now they can see it at a glance. This galaxy-level being named Jia Yan seems to be just like that. After all, he is still said to be a genius. He also defeated several galaxy-level adults who were guests in the large area as soon as he came. That's all. Compared to the absolute king of the Zerg domain, the queen of the Zerg, there is still a huge gap. This is Jia Yan, let's just leave it like this. What everyone says he does, is it possible that he will still have a chance to surpass me, Her Majesty the Queen of the Great Domain, in the future? Haha, the gap must be huge. After all, our Zerg Queen has grown to where we are now in an instant. When I was still young, the Zerg Queen was born. In an instant, we are now stronger than me. You're so young. Ah, uncle, she is younger than you. My God, isn't she only about 200 years old? The Queen of the Zerg is really a genius. She is much more powerful than those geniuses who are practicing in our great domain. This Jia Yan, he seems to be quite powerful, but to really compare him with Her Majesty the Queen is to insult Her Majesty the Queen. No, this Jia Yan, as well as the talented and powerful people who came to our domain before, each one has a lot of past, and they are all brilliant, but compared with the Queen, they are like dwarfs, Firefly, and how you compete for glory, they are not on the same level at all. Every time a talented person comes, in addition to being news to the Zerg community, everyone also has more love and pride for the Zerg Queen. Galaxy-level existences sound very powerful, right? In the outer star field, they are all the masters of one area, and each of them is a reputable being. However, when they go to the Zerg area, they all come to seek advice or beg for advice. Resources. To put it bluntly, these are just like students, or they come to the Zerg territory to beg. Therefore, these ordinary people, on the one hand, worship those strong people in the outside world, but on the other hand, they are a little proud. Of course, the strong people will not be too entangled with what the people think. After all, as strong people, each of these people has their own persistence in their hearts, and they will not pay attention to the weak people's pointers. Even if they hear it, these powerful men will never have any big reaction, because these are all the truth. They were studying in the Chong clan territory. The Queen of the Zerg was in the starry sky. As a philanthropic superpower, for her, it was absolutely more than enough to give advice to ordinary galaxy-level beings. Boom boom boom. Within the starry sky, a ray of light quickly glided over. Haha, my strength has improved this time, so this time I will go to the planet in the Zerg domain and practice hard. Then I can listen to Her Majesty the Queen's instructions nearby and my strength will also improve. Faster. A terrifying yellow creature soars across the sky. He flew all the way and his strength was astonishing. Just after flying into an extremely powerful domain, this existence slowed down. This is a mid-level galaxy creature. It's just that this creature's strength is generally at the level of genius among the mid-level beings in the galaxy, because his strength is not that powerful compared to the mid-level creature in the galaxy that Jia Yan killed before. It should even be said that his strength is considered weak among the ordinary mid-level and primary levels of galaxy. And this weak power was one of the reasons why he left the huge planet full of geniuses. He wanted to go out, combine Her Majesty the Queen's guidance on him, and then quickly improve a certain level of strength, and then return there, proud and proud. Humph, none of those people trust me, and Her Majesty the Queen. Although she gives me guidance, she must be afraid that my strength will improve too fast. When I enter the domain lord level, she may lose. Give it to me, so you have to suppress me so that I don't improve as fast. There was a hint of sneer in this expert's eyes. The agreement he signed with the Zerg Queen made him a subordinate of the Zerg Queen, and it was precisely because of this agreement that he received a lot of guidance from the Zerg Queen. This is why he went into outer space this time. The main reason for making breakthroughs in cultivation. Without the guidance of the Zerg Queen, he would not have been able to achieve the current speed of progress. So I want to go back and see if those beings who were about the same strength as me before can still defeat me now. This mid-level galaxy creature was gnashing its teeth all the way. You must know that he can achieve the galaxy level, or even the intermediate galaxy level, so he is naturally very talented. And before that, he had always been very proud and arrogant in his own star field and the surrounding star fields. It's a pity that when he learned about the Zerg Queen and the star field of the Zerg Queen, he came to this palace-like place with a sneer. Then he fought with several same levels who followed several Zerg Queens. Needless to say, he failed miserably. From then on, he recognized his own strength and worked harder. But don't worry, I'm back near the palace. I can't challenge or anything first, but I have to take a good rest. Only in this way can my strength be improved to the top. Besides, the planet I picked has really good energy. In that starry sky, my improvement in strength is thanks to it. This strong man lamented that the Zerg's methods in the big domain were extremely huge, and the methods on that planet could be seen. The energy on the planet is too strong. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't take the planet away, he would have wanted to take that huge planet completely away from where it was. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 1883. Of course, in the view of this mid-level galaxy creature, even if he is not taken away, anyway, everyone in the Zerg territory now knows him, and the planet has been occupied by him. He can come anytime and anywhere, but he can't come here anytime. Will he come back, and a strong man will appear and take over his planet? Then he will definitely fight with the other party. Haha, I'm overthinking it. If another strong person comes to this planet, there will definitely be an envoy from the Zerg territory who will explain it clearly to them, right? Then the other party will still snatch my planet. It's impossible, no one has it must be so tense. This mid-level galaxy creature smiled slightly. Then, he suddenly moved forward rapidly and increased his speed. And at the same time as this mid-level creature from the galaxy rushed to the Zerg territory. Within the Zerg domain, Jia Yan is still carrying out his own training. He didn't know yet that there was a mid-level galaxy creature from the outside world, coming towards the Zerg territory. What he knows is that his strength has made some progress within the Zerg territory. Jia Yan, I really didn't expect that you are extremely talented, but your theoretical knowledge and basic knowledge would be so poor. The Zerg Queen stood proudly opposite Jia Yan, speechless. Today is the day for Jia Yan to receive the teachings from the Zerg Queen. Such days have passed 3 times, and every time, the Zerg Queen will sigh with emotion. It's not that Jia Yan is too stupid. It should even be said that Jia Yan's talent and adaptability are the first beings that the Queen of the Zerg has taught so many powerful people to realize that they are somewhat similar to her own talent. Of course, this is just a similarity in comprehension. It is hard to say whether it will actually be the same as the Zerg Queen, which will turn into an improvement in strength. And it is true that Jia Yan has recently seen clearly that among all the genius galaxy level beings she has taught, the one who is the most talented is even more talented than other galaxy level beings. It was precisely because Jia Yan didn't even have much basic knowledge that she was able to defeat 2 galaxy level beings she had taught. This was what really shocked her. Without her guidance, Jia Yan was able to defeat so many galaxy classes with just his mediocre knowledge and combat theory, and was able to defeat all the galaxy classes she had taught him. What if he had received her guidance? This was like a huge surprise to the Zerg Queen. Before Jia Yan came, her clone judged that Jia Yan's talent and future prospects were good. But she never expected that this prospect would appear as soon as she arrived. Haha, Your Majesty the Queen, although I don't understand this, you can teach me. I believe I will be able to understand it soon. Jia Yan smiled slightly. In fact, he could tell that the Queen's view of him was quietly changing. And Jia Yan also has a slight respect for him. Her Majesty the Queen actually knows everything, and is much more knowledgeable than Jia Yan, a relatively autistic native from a small star field. I didn't come here by mistake. Just the things she taught me several times were enough for me to digest for a long time. After digesting it, my basic knowledge will definitely become solid and my strength will be greatly improved. Jia Yan felt that it was absolutely the right decision to take many risks to himself and come to this Zerg territory. Both sides were satisfied. Jia Yan's talent satisfied the Zerg Queen, while the Zerg Queen admired Jia Yan for her knowledge and strength. As for these two strong men, they were talking endlessly every day, which made many strong men around them very jealous of Jia Yan. Jia Yan also knew this, but after all, the Queen of Zerg had a high ranking. Look, no one dared to cause trouble for him without opening his eyes. It's not that there won't be fights in this place where strong people gather. It should even be said that there are many scenes of fighting. After all, when strong people gather together, how can we make progress without fighting? It's just that Jia Yan is still considered a newcomer here. No one dares to come here to really trouble him, because the Queen of the Zerg has long established the rules. Newcomers must go through an initial period of 1 month before they come here. Only by teaching him personally can he be qualified to be challenged by others, and only then can others challenge him. This can be regarded as a kind of protection for newcomers, and it also allows newcomers to gradually become familiar with the environment here before being challenged. Even if they lose, there will be no resentment. Wait until a month later and watch me defeat him. That's right. 1 month later, we went to challenge him, and it actually took up so much of the Queen's time that we didn't even have time to ask Her Majesty the Queen for advice. Humph, I don't have anything to ask the Queen. I just see that this guy is unhappy. Haha, I know you. Don't you have a crush on the Queen? What? Now there is a newcomer who is so close to the Queen. Are you jealous? Roll. Several galaxy-level beings are secretly planning to challenge Jia Yan 1 month after Jia Yan arrives here, or make Jia Yan take the initiative to challenge them. After all, they all saw that this elementary creature from the galaxy, who had defeated 2 beings of the same level as soon as he arrived, would definitely not be so quiet. When the 1-month protection period is over, he would definitely challenge others. In this way, these powerful men who secretly discuss dealing with Jia Yan will definitely be within the scope of Jia Yan's consideration. They had already planned how to embarrass Jia Yan or even hurt him secretly when Jia Yan challenged them. However, these genius galaxy-level experts also know that Jia Yan can make the Zerg Queen value him so much, so he is naturally extremely talented. They don't underestimate Jia Yan, but they don't think highly of him, because they understand that this giant mosquito existence, no matter how talented he is, has only been in the galaxy-level training ground of this Zerg territory for only a month. Time, not to mention that they all heard that this galaxy-level being did not even understand many basic knowledge. In this case, what progress could he make in a month? It's good that the strength has not deteriorated by then. After all, a person who doesn't understand the basics will definitely destroy his original bad habits if he wants to understand clearly what the Zerg Queen said, and his strength will definitely deteriorate a lot by then. In their opinion, if they want to integrate the profound principles Her Majesty the Queen said into their own combat effectiveness, It will take at least 1 or 2 years before they can be able to restore their previous combat effectiveness. Then, they will gradually ways to improve. So this Jia Yan wants to make progress, but it takes a long time, but he is a being who doesn't even understand the basics. Humph, he's just a kid from the countryside. He got so close to the Queen of the Zerg with a little bit of talent. Does he really think that he can catch up with the Queen? It's almost ridiculous. Indeed, so does the Zerg Queen. She actually gave him equal status, which made him inflated. Don't talk about the Queen like that. She should just love talents. This Jia Yan is probably not as bad as we thought. Otherwise, how could he be treated by the Zerg Queen? The status and strength of both parties are so different. The Zerg Queen, you must have your own reasons for liking him. Several galaxy-level people have been secretly thinking about Jia Yan's strength. A group of people are waiting for a month to come. And this time, for the strong, is as fast as a day for the weak. That's right, Jia Yan went into seclusion again after listening to several explanations from the Zerg Queen. Even if the Zerg Queen wanted to teach her, he wouldn't come forward. In fact, it was also because he couldn't digest it. On that planet with good energy. On a planet as big as the moon, there is a house made of stone. This house was simply built by using the power of brain waves to move large blocks of stone. It's simple and a bit ugly, but if he had any weak points, he would be absolutely stunned when he saw his house. Because the size of this house is actually 50 kilometers high, and almost 200 kilometers long and wide. This is what Jia Yan has done recently. Hold on. A slight shout sounded forcefully from this planet. Jia Yan used his brainwave power at full power, dug out a piece of himself, and then made it into a square stone. He gently used his brainwave power to place it on the top of the house. Next, he looked a little depressed. I never thought I could build such a huge house. Looking at his masterpiece, he was secretly satisfied. Jia Yan has always been relatively simple in the use of brainwave power. It's not that he doesn't know his weakness in this area, it's just that he has been improving by leaps and bounds before and made up for his shortcomings at a certain stage, but his brainwave power has improved again. After failing to make up for it a few times, he gave up on matching his brainwave power knowledge and turned to all-out techniques to improve combat effectiveness. But in fact, after giving up these small details, his vision and overall combat effectiveness were unable to reach the true level. That's right, even though Jia Yan always fights across levels and even kills extremely powerful masters, in fact, his strength is still not fully utilized. The Queen of the Zerg is the one who understands this best. Just the shock she showed after asking Jia Yan many questions and then summarizing Jia Yan's specific knowledge and experience shows how much potential Jia Yan still has. She once told Jia Yan at the beginning, if you really make up for your various basics, and then make full use of your own characteristics, you don't have to go to the extreme, your strength will double. This is why the Zerg Queen is becoming more and more optimistic about Jia Yan. It was like a rough stone that she discovered. The previous Jia Yan was also able to kill enemies across levels, but the Zerg Queen didn't think it was a big deal because she could do even better than Jia Yan with Jia Yan's strength. And she could see that Jia Yan did what he did just because he had various talents. For example, the subspace talent, his own Onmyedo talent, the evolutionary beast endurance talent, etc. Without those talents, his combat effectiveness is likely to be inferior to even an ordinary genius here. But after having specific contact with Jia Yan, she discovered that Jia Yan was not really that bad, it was just because his strength improved too quickly, and he had no guidance from a noble family, let alone a master, which led to a lack of knowledge and vision. The too fast progress speed limit makes many theories in battle unclear. As long as those theories are quickly completed, Jia Yan's combat effectiveness will be improved to a higher level. Double the combat power. Although my digestion this time does not want to double the combat power, it must be at least 30% stronger, right? While Jia Yan was in seclusion, he recalled the disdain shown by the Zerg Queen when she knew that he could no longer digest the knowledge, and he had the idea of working hard to improve himself. In fact, Jia Yan has never served a strong person in his life. But the Queen of the Zerg is really something he admires. She is really talented and has a really big heart. In terms of talent, from the lines in her words, you can tell that this new Queen of the Zerg, who has brought the entire Zerg domain to the top, is really talented, and her talent is as high as even Jia Yan's. They are all somewhat helpless. That's right, Jia Yan clearly understood after he knew the division of strength and understood what a territory lord was. He also understood how much strength was needed to fight against several territory lords with the strength of one territory lord. How big the gap is between myself and the Zerg Queen. Maybe it's hard to say how talented she is, but she grew up in a great emperor's family and has always had the guidance of famous experts and strong men. This shows that she is basically much better than Jia Yan. Even if her talent is not bad, her basic skills are different. It's just a shortfall. Jia Yan can't guarantee whether he can catch up with the opponent. As for saying she has a big chest, it doesn't mean that the pair hanging on the Zerg Queen's chest are how big her breasts are hidden under the armor. Rather, it means that the other party is really big-hearted and doesn't taboo anything. She holds this training holy place where many galaxy-level people come to practice with her. Many galactic-class people can come as long as they are not hostile and have no ill will towards the Zerg Queen. Even if the Queen of the Zerg doesn't talk about teaching you everything she has, she is at least very dedicated to teaching you many things. Every galaxy-level person who comes here can really learn something. This is what Jia Yan admires about the other party. I don't think so much. If I catch up with her, I believe I have a chance, but in recent years, there is really no possibility. Jia Yan sighed and then focused on improving his strength. After a month or so of basic supplementation, he had a deeper understanding of many essential issues. To put it bluntly, although Jia Yan had been teaching others in the Orion arm before, it was only because the people he taught were all below the galaxy level. If his set, except for the Yin and Yang Dao, were presented to any galaxy level person, they would probably die laughing. He doesn't say many mistakes, but only talks about those obscure things that he thinks are reasonable. In fact, in the eyes of others, they are like child's play.